Fall in love with a mature professor, it's so fun to get her. Xiao Xu, you must learn to be grateful. Why don't you marry my daughter? And just like that, after time traveling, Xiu ended up marrying a mature professor as his wife. The best part: his father-in-law and mother-in-law are filthy rich. In his previous life, he was a top-tier scientific researcher who died suddenly from overwork. He thought this new life would be all about taking it easy and enjoying early retirement. But to his surprise, his mature professor wife was obsessed with self-improvement. Not only did she push herself to grow, she dragged Xiu along for the ride. What could he do? He had no choice but to return to his old path, transforming back into an all-around academic prodigy. Chapter 1: A man must know gratitude and repay kindness. Xiao Xu. What is the fundamental principle of being a decent human? Xiu sat in a quiet corner of the cafe, facing a middle-aged couple. The man, Qin Tai Hong, leaned forward, speaking with deep meaning. Obey the law? Xiu shrank his neck slightly and answered cautiously. That's the bottom line. I'm talking about the basic principle. Qin Tai Hong pursed his lips and said sternly, it's gratitude and repaying kindness. Your Aunt Zhang and I have always treated you well, Haven Tiwi. Now, we have something to ask of you, and you must agree. Otherwise, we'll just die right in front of you. Xiu was stunned. His brows furrowed in alarm. No, Uncle Qin, Aunt Zhang, if you have something to say, just tell me. If it's something I can do, I'll never refuse. Please, don't say things like that. Good. Then let Auntie say it. Zhang Qinhui smiled and said cautiously, your uncle wants to be your father. I want to be your mother. What? What kind of weird play is this couple acting out? After hearing Aunt Zhang's request, Xiu nearly lost his mind. He wasn't sure if the world had gone mad or if his ears had malfunctioned, but either way, he was utterly flustered. I mean, as your in-laws. We have a daughter. If we're categorizing leftover women, she's already at fighting Buddha level. Qin Tai Hong sighed with a bitter expression. But don't worry. She's kind, grounded, and honestly more beautiful and elegant than a celebrity. It's just that. Ahum. Zhang Qinhui cleared her throat and picked up where her husband left off. Xiao Xu, we've actually been observing you in secret for a long time. We both think you're the best candidate for a son-in-law. And our daughter isn't bad either. She's a university professor with tenure, no less. Xiu pursed his lips and muttered carefully, Uncle Qin, Aunt Zhang, your daughter is so accomplished, I'm sure she is not lacking for suitors. But me. I'm just a temp worker at the university. I probably don't measure up. That's not your concern. Let me just ask, do you mind an age gap relationship? Qin Tai Hong asked seriously. Pretty sure it's more than just an age gap. Uncle Qin is 56, Aunt Zhang 55. If I had to guess, their daughter must be around 34. Meanwhile, I'm only 24. That's quite a stretch, isn't it? At that moment, Zhang Qinhui elbowed her husband and rolled her eyes. Xiao Xu is young and open-minded, I'm sure he doesn't mind. Right? Xiao Xu. Well. I mean, sure, in theory, but. Xiu asked cautiously, how old is your daughter? 33. She's only 9 years older than you, Zhang Qinhui said with a smile. You know what they say, 3 years older, a treasure. 6 years older, a gold nugget. 9 years older? That's a whole gold mine. Xiao Xu, this is your fortune. Fortune indeed. I even had a master do a reading. He said this marriage is fate from 3 lifetimes. You must get married. If you don't, you'll be cursed. Xiao Xu, sometimes you just have to believe in destiny. Qin Tai Hong declared solemnly. Oh dear God. What a headache. These two are definitely scamming me. Xiu was almost in despair. The couple was so forceful, they gave him no chance to refuse at all. Xiao Xu. Zhang Qinhui suddenly reached out and held Xiu's hand tightly, her face full of pleading. Your Uncle Qin and I are getting old. Our greatest wish in life is to see our daughter walk down the aisle. Can you help fulfill that dream? Xiu looked into Aunt Zhang's teary eyes, then at the hopeful expression on Uncle Qin's face. With a sigh of helplessness, he nodded and said, I guess we can meet first, at least. I haven't even seen her yet. What's wrong? Why are you sitting here alone, smoking with such a gloomy face? Xiao Yu was seated in a corner outside the library, staring up at the blue sky, puffing on a lonely cigarette, his face full of suffering and frustration. Just then, a man older than him walked over curiously. Bro. What do you think marriage brings to a man? Xiao Yu asked with a blank expression. Well, that's heavy. Song Xian sat beside him, took out a cigarette from his own pocket, and muttered, something on your mind? I don't know how to explain it, it's just. Forget it. Xiao Yu curled his lips and murmured, guess I'll just take it one step at a time. His heart was bitter, but he couldn't say it out loud. The truth was Xiao Yu wasn't from this world. He had transmigrated here half a year ago, landing in a parallel universe. Before the transmigration, he had been a top-tier physicist, once even nominated for the Nobel Prize in Physics. Though he didn't win, he was a leading figure in his field at only 32. Sadly, overworked, he collapsed and died at his post, then woke up in the body of a fresh college graduate with the same name. 1 week after arriving, Xiao Yu began job hunting, only to realize that in a society overflowing with graduate degrees, his 211 university degree wasn't much to brag about. Still, his expectations were low, just a simple 9 to 5 with weekends off. Salary? Just enough not to starve. As Liu Bei once said, I fought battles all my life. Can't I enjoy some peace now? Play the music. Dance. Then one day, while job hunting, Xiao Yu came across an old man collapsed on the ground. A crowd had gathered around him, watching silently. No one dared to help, not out of coldness, but fear of being scammed. Xiao Yu, though, wasn't worried. He had no money and plenty of time for a lawsuit. So he helped and took the man to the hospital. That man was Qin Tai Hong. They hit it off immediately and grew close, referring to each other as uncle and nephew. Qin even helped Xiao Yu land a dream job doing light duties in a university library. The pay was low, but the work was easy, and there were free meals. Everything seemed to be heading in a good direction until this. Xiao Yu had treated the couple like family. Turns out, they wanted to become his family. Did you hear? Professor Qin from the physics department might get promoted next year. Song Xian said. Qin Rushuang? Yes, moving up fast. Xiao Yu had worked here for almost 3 months and had seen Qin Rushuang a few times. She was, hands down, the pinnacle of mature charm, gorgeous and dignified. As her name implied, she was cold and aloof, always carrying an air of unapproachable grace. Rumor had it she was still single. No kidding. But to be fair, she really is incredible. Song Xian said with admiration. Just then, Xiao Yu's phone rang. Seeing the caller ID, his heart skipped a beat. He stood up and answered. Uncle? What's up? Xiao Yu asked. Take the rest of the day off and head to the Starbucks near the campus gate. My daughter is waiting for you there, Qin Tai Hong instructed. Wait, what? So soon? Xiao Yu panicked. Uncle, isn't this a bit rushed? Go now. We'll be waiting for good news. Beep. Before Xiao Yu could protest, Qin hung up. Whoa, what happened? Did your house catch fire? Song Xiang saw Xiao Yu's pale face after the call and asked in confusion. Nothing. Brother Song, help me ask for leave. I need to step out. Hurrying to the Starbucks at the school gate, Xiao Yu glanced around. His eyes landed on a woman sitting alone in a corner. Though he could only see her from behind, her figure exuded an indescribable mature elegance. Xiao Yu took a deep breath, tidied up his clothes, and slowly walked over. Hello. You must be Uncle Qin's daughter? I'm Qin, director. Just as he sat down and saw her face clearly, his scalp tingled. Qin Rushuang. The full professor and deputy head of the physics department. Chapter 2, are you there? Wanna get married? Uncle Qin's daughter was actually Qin Rushuang. Looking at the elegant and aloof woman before him, Xiao Yu's mind buzzed blankly, his eyes full of shock and a trace of disbelief. She wore a perfectly tailored black office suit, a crisp, conservative white blouse on top, and sleek, fitted black dress pants on the bottom. Even her light makeup, seemingly meant to downplay her natural beauty, only highlighted her dignified features and graceful, intellectual aura. You know me? Qin Rushuang raised a delicate brow, glancing at the young man before her as she questioned him with a cold tone. I work at the Fuder University Library, Xiao Yu explained softly. I've seen you a few times. After all, she was a mid-level leader at the university. He had to show some respect. Xiao Yu silently switched from the informal you to the formal in his tone. That also explained how Uncle Qin managed to hook him up with such a cushy job. How do you know my parents? Just like her name suggested, Qin Rushuang's attitude was frosty. She didn't smile, giving off a lofty air. Perhaps this was typical of women who specialized in physics, emotionally detached in life, but endlessly rational when it came to science. Well, Uncle Qin fainted on the street, and no one dared to help him. But I was bold enough, I took him to the hospital, Xiao Yu explained. That's how I got to know Uncle Qin and Aunt Zhang. Now they invite me over for dinner pretty often. Qin Rushuang nodded slightly, a faint look of helplessness and bitterness crossing her face as she whispered, "Thank you. It's no problem, really." Xiao Yu shrugged and smiled. How about this, Director Qin, let us just say we've done our part today. Don't worry, I'll explain everything to Uncle Qin and Aunt Zhang. Qin Rushuang hesitated for a second, then replied calmly, let us sit a while longer. All right. Want a coffee? What would you like? Cappuccino? Xiao Yu offered. That's fine. Qin Rushuang remained expressionless, keeping her distance. But Xiao Yu didn't mind at all. As a former top talent in the field, he knew all too well how dull women in physics research could be. Most of them had similar personalities to Qin Rushuang, the only difference being that, unlike most researchers, she had both beauty and a stunning figure. He scanned a code and ordered 2 coffees, an iced Americano and a cappuccino for Auntie. Then he sat there quietly, unsure what to do. Playing on his phone felt a bit rude. Director Qin. Just call me by my name in private. Oh, Director Qin Rushuang. Qin Rushuang pursed her lips and asked casually, what is it? What field do you research in? Xiao Yu asked softly. Condensed matter. My focus is low-temperature physics and superconductivity, as well as high-pressure physics, low-dimensional physics, solid-state physics, crystal physics, and semiconductor physics, she replied. So that's why. No wonder she was rising so fast. In Xiao Yu's view, condensed matter was kind of a watered-down field. That wasn't meant to insult anyone, it was just the truth. Especially those studying graphene, anything and everything could supposedly enhance its catalytic properties. Even bird poop. Yes, bird poop used as a dopant in graphene could supposedly make it better than undoped graphene in electrocatalysis. But that said, Qin Rushuang probably wasn't that kind of researcher. She seemed legit. Are you really that into physics? Qin Rushuang suddenly asked. A little. I've dreamed of becoming a physicist since I was a kid, Xiao Yu smiled. I wanted to achieve what even Einstein didn't. Most theoretical physicists had that kind of dream, especially someone like Xiao Yu, who had once studied quantum field theory. He'd even been nominated for a Nobel Prize for resolving some of the mathematical inconsistencies in QFT. Is that so? That's nice. Keep working hard, Qin Rushuang replied without much interest. At that moment, their 2 coffees were ready. Xiao Yu stood up to grab them and handed the cappuccino to Qin Rushuang. Your job is a temporary contract work? She asked offhandedly. Yep. We're all temp workers, Xiao Yu nodded. Qin Rushuang took a light sip of her coffee and said leisurely, I'll help change your employment status to permanent. But I have one condition, I hope you can visit my parents more often. That's not necessary. Xiao Yu replied seriously, even if you don't change my employment status, I'd still visit Uncle Qin and Aunt Zhang often. It's really nothing for me, Qin Rushuang said, taking another small sip. Then she checked the time, stood up, and said, all right, I have some work to get back to. Also put in a good word for me with my parents. Oh. Should we add each other on WeChat? Xiao Yu called after her. If we're gonna fake this, might as well commit. Qin Rushuang hesitated for a second, then pulled out her phone and scanned his QR code. Beep. They were now WeChat friends. Username, Qin Rushuang. WeChat ID, 138XXXXXX. Location, Iceland. Staring at her profile info, then watching her walk away, Xiao Yu quietly dialed her mother's number. Xiao Xu. I've been waiting all day for this call. So. My daughter's not bad, right? You two like each other, don't you? Aunt Zhang's voice was eager, like she was ready to be a grandma tomorrow. Well. Xiao Yu didn't know what to say. The words caught in his throat and quietly dissolved as he muttered, Auntie, there's just a huge gap between me and Director Qin. I don't think we have much in common. Silence. The other side went completely quiet. Xiao Yu didn't dare say a word. Well? What did Xiao Xu and Xuan say? He vaguely heard Uncle Qin asking from the side. Shut up. You're so annoying. Suddenly, Aunt Zhang roared. Xiao Yu was so startled he almost jumped. Cough, cough, cough. Xiao Xu, I wasn't yelling at you. Let us leave it there for now. Your uncle and I have some things to handle. Beep. 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 The dial tone sounded as the call ended. Xiao Yu let out a long sigh of relief. Finally, this matter was put to rest, and he could go back to happily slacking off. After work, Xiao Yu slowly rode his second-hand e-bike to a nearby apartment. Once home, the first thing he did was take a shower. Then, freshly clean, he lounged comfortably on the sofa, ready to play on his phone. That's when he noticed that 10 minutes ago, Qin Rushuan had sent him 2 WeChat messages. Qin Rushuan, are you there? Qin Rushuan, wanna get married? Chapter 3, Dad will buy you a Mercedes-Benz. Xiao Yu was suddenly confused, and his head was buzzing. What's going on? Am I seeing things? He rubbed his eyes hurriedly and looked at the content carefully again, but there was no change. Calm. Comrade Xiao Yu, you need to calm down. Xiao Yu took a deep breath, tried to calm his emotions, picked up his phone and quickly edited the message. Xiao Yu, Uncle Qin. Ouch, stop it. Even though hope seems a little slim, we should still have hope for the future. At this moment, Xiao Yu was secretly expecting in his heart that the next result would be what he expected, and then a moment later, he received a reply from the other party. Qin Rushuan, I'm in the laboratory. Qin Rushuan, is it convenient for a voice call? Is she serious? Xiao Yu was almost sweating profusely and typing with trembling hands. Xiao Yu, convenient. Just a few seconds after sending the message, Xiao Yu received a voice call request from Qin Rushuan, and he silently pressed the accept button. Director Qin. What's going on? Xiao Yu asked cautiously. Literally. Qin Rushuan on the phone was like an emotionless machine, and said coldly, let's get married. Xiao Yu shrank his head and muttered cautiously, Director Qin? Are you ready to throw the jar into the ground? You're the broken jar. Qin Rushuan was slightly emotional, and after a pause, she said calmly, seriously. No. How can this be serious? We just met in the afternoon, and decided to get married in the evening. Isn't that too hasty? In fact, Xiao Yu was quite willing to marry such a top-notch mature woman, but when he thought about how young he was and how much good time he had to waste, he felt like it was a huge loss. Would you like to reconsider this? I know Uncle Qin and Aunt Zhang must have put pressure on you, but you have to think about it carefully. Xiao Yu said seriously, how can life be the same no matter who you live with? Living with someone you love is living, and living with someone you don't love is living. Director Qin, think twice. Moment. The other side fell into dead silence. Xiao Yu thought his words touched her soul, but the result was. My parents like you very much, and I think you are pretty nice, so let's just leave it at that. Qin Rushuan said softly, meet at the Civil Affairs Bureau at 3 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. Get the marriage certificate first, do you have anything else to say? Civil Affairs Bureau. Oh my. Director Qin. Xiao Yu wanted to cry but had no tears. He urged urgently, you can't do that. Suddenly. The other side fell into silence again. You don't need to bring a betrothal gift, you don't need to buy a wedding house, you don't need to do anything, you just need to agree to marry me. Qin Rushuan said calmly, if you have any other questions, just ask my parents, they should be on their way. What's the meaning? Xiao Yu was still confused when he suddenly heard a hurried knock on the door. Bang, bang, bang. Xiao Xu. Open the door. Qin Taihong shouted loudly at the door. Xiao Yu, #%. Oh shit. Are they starting to come to your house to force you to get married? All right. I won't tell you anymore. Beep, beep, beep. Qin Rushuang died so quickly that Xiu Yu was a little at a loss. A couple who are eager to marry off their daughter, a mature woman who has no idea about marriage, and a completely confused me. How has this world become so crazy? Squeak. Uncle Qin, Aunt Zhang, why are you two here? Open the door. Looking at Qin Taihong and Zhang Qinhui standing at the door, Xiu Yu asked bitterly. We are here to do some ideological work for you. Qin Taihong answered without hesitation, then walked in with his wife. Xiao Xu. No need to pour the water, no need to pour the water. Zhang Qinhui looked at Xiu Yu and said earnestly, Xuan should have called you, right? You should also know what Xuan meant, right? So what do you think? Are you willing to be the son-in-law of me and your Uncle Qin? Well, actually. Xiu Yu sat obediently beside him, and answered with a tangled face, Auntie, some things need a process, just like me and Director Qin, we only met in the afternoon, and decided to get married in the evening. Isn't it too frivolous? Zhang Qinhui was about to speak when Qin Taihong beside her gently patted her thigh. Xiao Xu. Uncle understands what you mean. Well, go to the door with Uncle and smoke a cigarette first. Qin Taihong murmured. Xiao Xu. You also saw Xuan today. Xiu Yu and Qin Taihong were at the corner of the emergency passage, smoking. At this time, Qin Taihong said with a sad face, it's really hard to find a partner when you are well educated and cold-tempered. Your aunt and I have tried hard, but what's the result? You don't even want to meet me. The self-torture scheme. Uncle? I didn't expect that you were also studying the art of war. Xiu Yu listened to Qin Taihong's words and silently turned on the defense mode in his heart. Your aunt and I are almost 60 years old. Qin Taihong sighed and said to himself helplessly, it's really painful. Others have grandchildren, but your aunt and I are. Speaking of which. He looked up at Xiu Yu and said seriously, I know it's unfair to you and you may not be able to accept it for a while, but Xiao Xu, sometimes men have to be a little harder on themselves, like your uncle. When I saw your aunt for the first time, I secretly told myself in my heart. Okay, let's just have her. This is not. It's been half of my life. Qin Taihong threw away the cigarette butt, stomped on it a few times, then patted Xiu Yu on the shoulder and said, your aunt and I have a little savings, 3 villas, 4 large flats and 2 commercial buildings, as well as a lot of stocks, funds and gold. Don't worry, the future belongs to you and Xuan, etc. Why do I feel like I'm going to be a son-in-law? What do you two do? How do you have so much money? Facing Xiu Yu's puzzled expression, Qin Taihong smiled and said nonchalantly, your aunt and I were once prosperous with the trend of the times. Come. Put it on first. Qin Taihong took out a watch from his pocket and slowly helped Xiu Yu put it on his wrist. Good. Seeing Xiu Yu wearing the Rolex, Qin Taihong nodded with satisfaction, then held his hand tightly and said sincerely, you are wearing this Rolex too, Xiao Xu, you should agree. No. Xiu Yu came to his senses and tried to break free, but was held tightly by Qin Taihong. Don't worry. If you don't like Rolex, do you like Patek Philippe? Qin Taihong looked at him sincerely and asked in a soft voice. Faced with the sincere heart of his father-in-law, Xiu Yu gradually couldn't bear it anymore, and with the appearance of money, his bottom line was also slowly being eaten away. A bit loose. It seems that Xiao Xu understands an old saying very well, he who knows the times is a hero. Qin Taihong found that Xiu Yu's expression was not so stubborn, and he was very relieved in his heart. Of course, he did not have any contempt for Xiu Yu being conquered by money, because he had gone through the same thing in the past. What car do you have? Well, electric, battery car. After hearing this, the old father-in-law waved his hand and said seriously, it's too low grade, Dad will buy you a Mercedes-Benz. Chapter 4, Prepare to set fire in her heart. As a person, you must listen to advice. Only by listening to advice can you have enough food to eat. Generally speaking, a man's goals are nothing more than career and love, or in other words, money and beauty. Now, as long as he marries Qin Rushuang, he can get both money and beauty in one go. Faced with all the temptations thrown by Qin Taihong, Xiu Yu finally had no choice but to give in. Looking at the sincere expression of his future father-in-law, he could not help but mutter bitterly, Uncle, if you are like this, it will be difficult for me to deal with it. He tried to be tough before dying. But Qin Taihong could see that his future son-in-law was already moved. He patted him on the shoulder and said earnestly, Xiao Xu, what do you think is the meaning of life? To fight for your ideal? No, no, no. Today, Dad will tell you 2 words. These 2 words took Dad most of his life to understand. Speaking of which, Qin Tai Hung paused and said seriously, it's happiness. Understand it with your heart, understand it carefully, and feel it well. I understand. But, he is a grown man after all. Xu Yu muttered with a sad face. Qin Tai Hung rolled his eyes and said seriously, Xiao Xu, you are a little naive, your vision is a little narrow. Do you think that your future mother-in-law and I want you to marry into our family? That's not the case at all. You are the son-in-law we all agree on, how could you marry into our family? Since you and Aunt think so highly of me, if I continue to refuse, it would be a bit immature. After Xu Yu sighed, he suddenly cheered up and said, Uncle, I will treat Director Qin well. Hearing his words, Qin Tai Hung smiled brightly and said with satisfaction, I was right about you. Let's go back. At the same time, Zhang Qinhui was waiting anxiously when suddenly the door opened from the outside and she saw her husband coming in with a smug look on his face. Immediately, an indescribable joy ran through her body and reached the top of her head. My wife. I said Xiao Xu is sensible. Qin Tai Hung returned to his wife and said with a smile, Xiao Xu agreed to marry our Xuan. Okay. Zhang Qinhui nodded with a smile, looked at Xu Yu who was a little embarrassed and reserved, and said, Xiao Xu, you and Xuan will go to get the marriage certificate tomorrow. As for the wedding, your father and I can't make the decision, you and Xuan should discuss it. As for the wedding house, we do have a few ready-made houses. Of course, you can buy another one if you don't like it. The household registration book is not with me. Xu Yu replied hesitantly, I asked my mother to express it to me. Well, not with you. Qin Tai Hung frowned, looked at his future son-in-law carefully, and said thoughtfully, isn't that right? I remember it was here with you. Is it? Oh, yes, look at my memory. Xu Yu, who was caught, wanted to crawl into the ground, and said with a stiff upper lip, suddenly, I forgot. Zhang Qinhui rolled her eyes at him gently and smiled softly, I see, you didn't forget, you were just trying to avoid it. But I understand. It's indeed a bit fast, but your father and I are afraid of more trouble. Of course, we are not worried about your character, but we are afraid that Xuan will regret it. Well. Zhang Qinhui sighed deeply, her face full of melancholy and helplessness, and then she said with determination, let's put our feelings aside for now, anyway, we must get the marriage certificate tomorrow. Seeing how the couple was in a hurry to ship the goods, Xu Yu vaguely felt that something was wrong, but before he could figure out the reason, he saw Zhang Qinhui take out a thick envelope from her bag, which contained an estimated 30,000 yuan. As is custom. This is a red envelope for you. Zhang Qinhui said with a smile, but, this red envelope is not something you can get casually, Xiao Xu, since your marriage with Xuan has been decided, it's a bit impolite to continue calling me uncle and aunt, isn't it? Dad, Mom. Xu Yu blurted out, shouting very naturally. Why? Come on, take it. The word mom made Zhang Qinhui so happy that she shook with joy, and made Qin Tai Hung so happy that he smiled from ear to ear, and the couple even wanted to add some money to the red envelope. In the following time, the couple did not stay too long and were almost ready to go back. Xu Yu sent them all their way to the door of the apartment, and then they saw the Cullinan parked on the side of the road. So handsome. I like it so much. I really want to have it. Xiao Xu, come to my house for dinner tomorrow night. I will invite Xuan as well. There are some things I need to discuss with you two in person. Zhang Qinhui said to Xu Yu. Xu Yu nodded. After watching Cullinan leave, Xu Yu stood there for a long time. He quickly took out his mobile phone, found Qin Rushuan's WeChat, and sent a voice call request without hesitation. After a few rings, the other party picked up. Xu Yu and Qin Rushuan remained silent between each other through their phones. Director Qin, I agreed. Xu Yu broke the silence and spoke softly. Qin Rushuan was surprisingly calm on the phone. Facing the upcoming marriage, she showed no unusual emotions. She said calmly, then let's follow the original plan, meet at the entrance of the Civil Affairs Bureau at 3 p.m. tomorrow to get the marriage certificate. This cold and emotionless tone made Xiao Xu a little overwhelmed. After hesitating for a long time, he carefully asked, Director Qin. Mom and Dad. No, what did Uncle and Aunt threaten you with? Life. The two of them were preparing to jump off the building in the afternoon. Qin Rushuan replied calmly. In an instant, Xiao Xu was about to break out in a cold sweat. As expected of a couple who owned 3 villas, 4 large apartments and 2 commercial buildings, their style of doing things was too ruthless. Oh. This is really a bit overwhelming. Xiao Xu wiped the sweat off his face and whispered softly, by the way, Aunt Zhang asked us to have dinner tomorrow night. Good. Qin Rushuan responded and then stopped talking. And Xiao Xu didn't know what to say. They didn't know each other in the morning, but in the evening she became his fiancée. This sudden change of identity. Even Xiao Xu, who had lived 2 lives, found it difficult to adapt for a while. Do you have anything else to do? Suddenly Qin Rushuan spoke and asked casually. No more. Is there anything I can do for you? Xiao Xu asked curiously. I'm working overtime. Then I'll hang up first. As soon as the words fell, their voice was interrupted. It's so late, and you're still working. Xiao Xu frowned, looked at the time, and couldn't help but sigh. As expected, he became a senior professor at the age of 33, and also served as the deputy director of the Department of Physics. This is a very high level of progress. It's about 3 or 4 floors high. After returning to his residence, Xiao Xu saw the thick envelope and Rolex watch on the coffee table. He then picked up the envelope and looked inside. There were indeed 30,000 yuan inside. However, the more money you have, the more embarrassed you become. Uncle Qin and Aunt Zhang love me so much, but their daughter is still working overtime at school. Am I still a human being? Thinking of this, Xiao Xu rushed out. My passion is like a fire. The whole desert is burning. The sun will hide from me even if it sees me. It will also be afraid of the fire of my love. Riding his electric scooter and humming the song Passionate Desert, Xiao Xu was on his way to school, ready to set Qin Rushuan's heart on fire. Chapter 5 I have a bold idea. Xiao Xu. Why did you come back so suddenly? The security guard at the school gate saw Xiao Xu and helped open the gate while asking curiously. I left something at the library, I'll come back to get it. While Xiao Xu was talking, he took out a cigarette from his pocket and handed it to the security guard. He said, Uncle Yu, I want to ask you something. What time does Qin Rushuan, the deputy director of the physics department, usually get off work? Director Qin. She won't be back until 10 o'clock at night. Security guard Uncle Yu answered while smoking a cigarette and with sparse curly hair. Oh. No wonder he became the deputy director of the department at the age of 33. With such a strong desire to improve himself, I think he can be the principal. Xiao Xu couldn't help but sighed. If he works harder, maybe he can be the head of the education committee. It sounds like some kind of joke, but actually Xiao Xu has a lot of calculations in his mind. Since the situation has come to this, he might as well just go all the way and live off this woman. Of course, he can't just keep licking her. He has to be like the tiger of the serious crime unit, Cao Dahua, who is living off this woman. After saying goodbye to the security guard Uncle Yu, Xiao Xu rode his electric scooter slowly to the office building of the physics department. Then he took out the midnight snack he had bought and sneaked into the building. No one. After finding Qin Rushuan's office, Xiao Xu discovered that she was not there at all. He frowned and muttered to himself, she's not in the lab, is she? He took out his cell phone, found Qin Rushuan's WeChat, and sent her a message directly. Xiao Xu, Director Qin, are you in the office? After a while, Qin Rushuan sent a reply. Qin Rushuan, in the laboratory. Really? Then go find her. Carrying a plastic bag containing midnight snacks, Xiao Xu set out on a journey to find his wife. There are only a few laboratories in the Department of Physics, and Qin Rushuan is engaged in condensed matter research, so it is quite easy to find. Xiao Xu soon found the laboratory, thinking of giving her a surprise, so he didn't knock on the door. He just chose to push the door open and walk in. The community is here to send warmth. When Xiao Xu opened the door of the laboratory, all the graduate students inside looked at him, including Qin Rushuan. The scene was so awkward that it made one feel like scratching their feet. However, Xiao Xu had seen big scenes before, and his psychological quality was quite good. He calmed down and said seriously, Meituan takeaway, who is Qin Rushuan? Someone ordered takeaway for you. Huh. Brother Xiao. Why are you still delivering food? When a young man at the table saw Xiao Xu, his face was filled with surprise and helplessness. Seeing an old acquaintance. Even if Xiao Xu had a strong mentality, he was embarrassed at this moment and answered hesitantly, because I'm poor. Just then, Qin Rushuan suddenly said, that's it for today. You all go back to the dormitory and think carefully about what went wrong. Hearing that it was over, the graduate students put down their work, said goodbye to Qin Rushuan one by one, and left without looking back, or to be more precise, they ran away. After making sure that all the students had left, Qin Rushuan, who was sitting in front of the computer, asked, why are you here? Deliver midnight snack. I promised Uncle Qin and Aunt Zhang that I would take care of you. Xiao Xu was still standing at the door. He gently put down the plastic bag containing the midnight snack and whispered, put the things here. Director Qin, I'll leave first. Etc. I'll go with you. Qin Rushuan said calmly, I'll sort out the documents for a minute. Moment. Qin Rushuan turned off the computer, picked up a few documents on the table, turned off the lights in the laboratory, came to Xiao Xu's side, and said softly, go to my office first. I don't know what you want to eat. I just bought some spicy hot pot. Xiao Xu followed Qin Rushuan to her office, took out a bowl of spicy hot pot from the bag, handed it to her personally, and also provided her with disposable bowls and chopsticks. How? Don't you like it? Seeing that she frowned slightly, Xiao Xu thought that she didn't like spicy hot pot. Add more spiciness next time. Qin Rushuan responded calmly, then picked up her chopsticks and slowly began to eat, while still reading the documents. Mature women are always so elegant when dining, as graceful and delicate as lotus flowers. Xiao Xu, who was sitting opposite, was a little dazed. He finally understood the famous saying. When you are young, you don't know how good aunts are, and you mistakenly take young girls as treasures. What's the problem? Qin Rushuan frowned slightly, with a hint of confusion and helplessness in her eyes. After hearing her words, Xiao Xu was immediately curious, pursed his lips and muttered, Director Qin. Can I take a look? Qin Rushuan hesitated for a moment, but finally nodded. Logically, I shouldn't show it to him, but after all, he and I are going to get a marriage certificate tomorrow and become a legally recognized couple. Besides, he probably won't understand it, and is probably just showing it out of curiosity. When Xiao Xu got the documents, he read through them carefully and found out what Qin Rushuan was researching. She wanted to find patterns in bending and twisting in three-dimensional polarized Maxwell beams. The general process is to introduce Maxwell lattice topological mechanics into the beam and propose a Maxwell beam model that supports topological soft bending modes, but this model is limited to one end of the beam. Well, it seems like there is something wrong with the model. Relying on his intuition in physics, Xiao Xu believes that the topological index proposed by Qin Rushuan has a little flaw, although her idea is perfect, introducing a modified topological index in the Maxwell beam that lacks a complete band gap, and establishing the relationship between Maxwell topological polarization and frozen evanescent phonons. Unfortunately, just one move away. But then again, how should I remind her? At the same time, Qin Rushuan, who was eating spicy hot pot, was watching him secretly. He was flipping through the documents seriously. His serious and solemn look made her feel quite interesting for some reason. Wow! How did you calculate this? Xiao Xu took the document, stood up and leaned in front of Qin Rushuan, pointed at the topological index, and asked sincerely, Director Qin, how is this calculated? A way to quantify molecular structure. You don't need to understand. Qin Rushuan just glanced at him and answered lightly. With my poor acting skills, can't you see something? Xiao Xu was anxious. Looking at the mature female professor who didn't understand his good intentions, he said seriously, I suddenly have a bold idea. Director Qin, can you lend me some paper and pen? Qin Rushuan silently handed him the paper and pen, and then concentrated on eating the spicy hot pot, not caring at all about what he wanted to do. Swish swish. After Xiao Xu got the pen, he scribbled something on the paper. Why is there a difference of 0.2 between the value I calculated and the value on your file? Xu Yu raised his head and looked at Qin Rushuang, who was sitting opposite him, his eyes full of the confusion and bewilderment of an ordinary person. Chapter 6. Let's get a marriage certificate. Xu Yu knew exactly what Qin Rushuang wanted to do. She was looking for clues to topological polarization mechanics in slender structures. Based on this direction and the existing data, the topological index was recalculated, but we should not be too arrogant. The calculation formula written out is obviously not something that a student who graduated from a 211 university can write, so all calculations need to be fixed within a reasonable framework. Then he used a coincidence method to write a correct answer. Even after Qin Rushuang saw it, she couldn't find any loopholes. Can you count? Qin Rushuang, who was eating spicy hot pot, glanced at Xu Yu in front of her and said expressionlessly, "Then you must be wrong." Hey. You are a condensed matter physicist, and you actually dare to question me. Don't think that just because you are good looking, tall, your parents are billionaires, and you are the leader of the school, you can do whatever you want. If you push me, your husband, too far, do you believe that I will punish you according to the family rules? Yeah. Please help me find where I'm wrong. Xu Yu handed her the calculation paper, then looked at her with a confused face, waiting for her to admit her mistake to him. Qin Rushuang took the manuscript and casually glanced at the calculation process on it. She couldn't help but roll her eyes and said calmly, "What a mess you wrote. What school did you graduate from? What major did you study? Who is your class teacher? Who is the principal?" Facing a series of questions from the mature female professor, Xu Yu was sweating a little. He replied awkwardly, "I graduated from an ordinary 211 university, majoring in theoretical physics." In fact, Xu Yu graduated from Berkeley, not the musician, but the University of California, Berkeley. As for the 211 graduate, it is his identity after traveling through time, but the majors are quite coincidental, both are theoretical physics. It seems. It can't be all your fault. Qin Rushuang muttered. What does it mean? What school did you graduate from? Xu Yu pursed his lips and asked in a low voice, "Director Qin. Which school did you graduate from?" MIT. Qin Rushuang answered lightly. I. This. Xu Yu? Why did you bother her for no reason? Xu Yu smiled awkwardly and said hurriedly, "Director Qin, for the sake of the gratitude between husband and wife, could you, a PhD graduate from MIT, a senior professor of the Department of Physics at Fudan University, and the deputy director of the Department of Physics at Fudan University, give me some pointers?" I didn't hear the rest of the sentence clearly. I only heard the word, husband and wife, at the beginning, which caused the usually cold Qin Rushuang to have a barely perceptible blush on both sides of her cheeks. She silently put down her chopsticks and carefully helped him look at the calculation process, then began her scolding. Unlike her previous cold appearance, Qin Rushuang at this moment had a little bit of poison in her mouth. What are you writing? Is this what your teacher taught you? You can even make a mistake in this. Are you actually paying attention in class? Have you forgotten even the most basic concept? Is this formula written like this? Stop reading it. Stop reading it. Director, I was wrong. Xu Yu would never have thought that the seemingly taciturn Qin Rushuang would be so aggressive, like two completely different people. Well. Suddenly Qin Rushuang made a strange sound. She frowned and stared at a line of formulas, her eyes full of surprise, and she was even a little at a loss. Found it. Should have discovered it earlier. I was told all this for nothing. Xu Yu felt aggrieved and felt that he was more wrong than Do-yi. Could it be? Qin Rushuang bit her lip, hurriedly picked up the document, found the calculation process of the topological index, and then compared it with Xu Yu's manuscript paper repeatedly. Suddenly, she stood up, with a hint of excitement between her brows. So that is how it is. He clenched the manuscript paper so tightly in his hand that it was twisted into a knot, which made Xu Yu feel heartbroken. Hello, hey. You may not respect me, but at least respect the fruits of my labor, right? Xu Yu shrank his neck and asked cautiously, Director? What's wrong? Did you win the prize? Can you give me some? You can go back now. Don't forget to marry me tomorrow afternoon. Qin Rushuang sat back in her chair, typing quickly on the keyboard, and spoke to him casually. No. Are you kicking me out now? How about compliments? How about praise? How about thanks? Xu Yu felt bitter, but couldn't say it out loud. However, just as he opened the office door, he suddenly heard her voice behind him. Etc. Xiao stopped and looked back at her. Take away the trash. Oh. I thought it was a change of heart, but it turned out to be just rubbing salt into the wound. After packing up the garbage and preparing to leave, Qin Rushuan suddenly spoke again. Be careful on the road. Xiao closed the door gently and stood at the doorway, his face full of frustration. He said he would set a fire in her heart, but why did he end up playing with fire and getting burned? The following afternoon, Qin Rushuan was alone in the laboratory. She was wearing a lab coat similar to a doctor's white coat and standing in front of the instrument looking at various data. There was a hint of nervousness in her cold expression. Because of an accident last night, she knew where the problem lay, but Qin Rushuan did not attribute the accident to Xiao. The process before was a mess, and the process after was inexplicable. There was no other possibility except that a blind cat caught a dead mouse. Just then, a woman of similar age to Qin Rushuan suddenly came to the laboratory. Professor Jiang Ru from the Department of Mathematics, 35 years old this year, and single. Frost. I heard, you were in the lab at 6 in the morning. Jiang Ru came to Qin Rushuan's side, looked at her concentrating look, and asked curiously, aren't you tired? Qin Rushuan shook her head and replied softly, not tired. It's almost 3 o'clock. Just take a rest. I'm really worried that you might faint. Jiang Ru said with concern. Won't. Qin Rushuan replied casually. The next second, he shuddered all over, turned his head quickly to look at her, and asked nervously, what time is it? It's almost 3 o'clock in the afternoon. How? Jiang Ru asked back in confusion. Oh no. Sister Jiang, please help me record the data. Before Jiang Ru could react, Qin Rushuan was no longer in the laboratory. No. Did she run away from her marriage? Xiao, holding his household registration booklet, stood at the door of the Civil Affairs Bureau and had been waiting for more than 10 minutes, but there was still no sign of Qin Rushuan. However, just as he finished speaking, a white Panamera appeared. After parking the car, Qin Rushuan, wearing a lab coat, got out of the car and ran straight towards Xiao. Feel sorry. There's a traffic jam on the road. Qin Rushuan was breathing heavily, her cheeks slightly flushed. Director Qin. Xiao pursed her lips and whispered, thank you for taking the time to come with me to get the marriage certificate. I haven't even had time to take off my lab coat. After hearing what Xiao said, Qin Rushuan realized that she was still wearing a lab coat, and she hurriedly took it off. Inside was still the exquisite black OL suit, conservative white shirt, black suit pants, and a pair of black thick-soled loafers. Take a deep breath. Qin Rushuan whispered softly, let's go get the marriage certificate. Chapter 7. This mom is full of emotion. Arriving at the lobby of the marriage registration office of the Civil Affairs Bureau, Xiao inquired about the service procedures at the front desk, and then hurried back to Qin Rushuan. I asked. Let's take some pictures first. There's a photo service nearby. I'll go get a number first. Xiao said. Qin Rushuan nodded and found a place to sit down. After a while, Xiao, who had gotten a number, came over and sat next to Qin Rushuan, and the two of them sat there quietly. Compared to other couples in the hall who were waiting to get their marriage certificates, they all seemed to be glued together, but Xiao and Qin Rushuan were different. Although they sat next to each other, there was no intimate action. Xiao sniffed, and smelled a faint fragrance from the mature female professor, which she had to say was quite pleasant. Director Qin. It's not too late for you to regret now. Xiao said suddenly. Do you regret it? Qin Rushuan asked back expressionlessly. Xiao shrugged and replied softly, if I say no, would you believe it? Then I also said no, would you believe it? Qin Rushuan turned her head slightly, looked at the young man sitting next to her, and said softly, some things, once I make a choice, I will not regret backing down. In addition, don't call me Director Qin anymore. Qin Rushuan said calmly, just call me by my name in private. Name? Wouldn't that be a bit distant? I mean. Xiao shrank his head and asked cautiously, can I call you Xuan? Qin Rushuan was stunned. Usually only the closest people would call her like that. But then again, he was about to become her husband, a person closer to her than anyone else. So there seemed to be nothing wrong with him calling her Xuan, but. Let's just call her Rushuang. As for you, just call me Shuyu. Shuyu pursed his lips and muttered softly, I'm talking to Rushuang. In an instant, Qin Rushuang shuddered slightly, an unspeakable shame gushed out from her heart, bit her lips lightly, and murmured, What's the matter? Fine. I'll get used to it. Shuyu glanced at her and smiled wickedly, are you a little panicked? No. Qin Rushuang responded a little angrily. Yesterday he was quite honest and obedient, and he listened to me very much, but today we are about to get the marriage certificate, and I feel that he seems to be a little naughty. Is it possible that his foxtail is exposed? Should I set some house rules or something? Shuyu? Huh? What's wrong, Rushuang? Why don't you just call me Director Qin? Qin Rushuang said. Shuyu frowned, her eyes full of confusion and puzzlement. Was she shy? Or was she seeking excitement in marriage? What happened between me and my subordinates in the double bed? Never mind. Just call me Rushuang. Seeing that Shuyu hadn't said anything, Qin Rushuang thought he had some objections, so she compromised silently. Actually, I don't care. You can call me anything. Shuyu shrugged, and then said seriously, baby, wife, Xuan, Rushuang, Director Qin, whatever you want to hear, I will call you. The first half of the sentence is reasonable, but the second half, baby? Wife? Who allowed you to shout like that? Mature female Professor Qin Rushuan's face was red, with shame and helplessness between her brows. She was about to speak, but the service desk called her number. We're here. Rushuang, let's go take wedding photos. Shuyu stood up and said to Qin Rushuang. Yes. A little closer. Hey man, what's wrong with you? I feel like you're a little scared. She's your wife, don't panic. Go over to her bravely. Okay, keep it up, smile a little, don't be so serious, this is a wedding photo shoot, not a divorce photo shoot, and there's no need to take divorce photos. Well. The photographer frowned, looked up at Qin Rushuang, and said earnestly, lady, please tilt your head a little, no. I asked you to tilt towards your husband, and smile again. Smile from the bottom of your heart, the smile just now was too fake. After a long struggle. Finally took the photo. When Shuyu got the photo, he glanced at Qin Rushuang beside him. Seeing her stern face, as if someone owed her hundreds of millions, he asked curiously, what's wrong? You seem a little angry. He's annoying. One moment he made me laugh, the next moment he made me stick close to you, and the next moment he made me tilt my head. Qin Rushuang's face darkened, and she said unhappily, I'm going to complain to him. Shuyu was sweating profusely and hurriedly advised, no, this is my duty, and the key is that I am also very attentive. You are a magnanimous person, so don't take it to heart. Qin Rushuang glanced at him and didn't say much, then followed him to register. First, you fill out the form, then submit the materials, and finally wait for the red booklet to stamp it. In a moment, you both get your own marriage certificate. How calm Shuyu and Qin Rushuang were before, but after getting the marriage certificate, their emotions became complicated. However, compared to Shuyu, who quickly accepted the reality, Qin Rushuang seemed to have entered a state of entanglement. Is that okay? Yesterday morning I didn't know him, this afternoon he became my husband. Qin Rushuang looked at the marriage certificate in her hand and the photo of them standing next to each other. It all felt like a dream. I'm pretty handsome. Just as Qin Rushuang was stunned, Shuyu leaned over, pointed at herself in the photo, and said with a smile, of course. You are also very beautiful. Is this all right? Qin Rushuang closed the marriage certificate and asked calmly. The divorce registry is next door. Shuyu pointed to the side and answered seriously. Qin Rushuang didn't say anything, but handed him the marriage certificate and said softly, I'm going back to the lab. As a result, at this moment, the mature female professor suddenly received a call, and the caller was her biological mother Zhang Qinhui. Frost. Did you receive it? Zhang Qinhui on the phone asked nervously. Qin Rushuang responded and said calmly, I got it. Okay. Where's your husband? Is he with you? Zhang Qinhui asked again diligently. The word husband made Qin Rushuang stunned for a long time. After she came to her senses, she silently handed the phone to Xiao Xu and said expressionlessly, "Looking for you, my mother." Then she saw Xiao Xu, who had just become her husband, took the phone she handed to him, and then said enthusiastically to her biological mother, "Hello. Mom. You're looking for me." Qin Rushuang looked at him unexpectedly, her eyes full of astonishment and disbelief. His call of "Mom" was full of emotion. Chapter 8. Are you sure you don't want Cullinan? Xiao Yu's sudden call of "Mom" stunned the usually steady Qin Rushuang, who looked at him in surprise, because his call of "Mom" was full of emotion and there was not a single bit of acting. Why? Zhang Qinhui on the other end of the phone was already trembling with joy, and said happily, "Xiao Xu, remember to come to our house for dinner tonight. Your father and I have bought all the food." Okay. Don't worry, Mom, I will definitely not be late. Xiao Yu said with a smile, "By the way, Mom, I want to eat the sweet and sour pork ribs you made. I have eaten it so many times, I just never get tired of it. It's just that it used to be made by Aunt, but now it's made by Mom." Okay, whatever you want to eat, Mom will make it for you. Zhang Qinhui had never been so happy. She had always liked this young man, and now he had become her son-in-law. It was just like the old saying. The more the mother-in-law looks at her son-in-law, the more she likes him. After a brief chat, Xiao Yu handed the phone to Qin Rushuang. When the mature female professor got her phone, she quickly adjusted her mood and murmured, "Mom, is there anything else? Remember to go home for dinner, and don't be late." Zhang Qinhui warned earnestly. I know. Qin Rushuang responded and hung up the phone. The next second, he looked straight at Xiao Yu beside him, with a hint of judgment in his eyes. "When did you call Mom?" Qin Rushuang asked. "Just now. The marriage certificate has been obtained, so Aunt Zhang is my mother-in-law." Xiao Yu looked at her with a silly face, as if asking, "Is there any problem with this?" Faced with his explanation, Qin Rushuang was speechless for a while. She bit her lips lightly and asked him, "Then why do you shout it so naturally? So smoothly? Just a call of Mom." "Yeah, Mom, the whole world is using this word to call mother," Xiao Yu replied. "I'm back in the lab." Qin Rushuang suddenly turned around and walked straight towards the door. Xiao Yu was left standing there, disheveled in the wind. What's wrong with this woman? It's a bit puzzling. Qin Rushuang opened the car door, sat in the driver's seat, and just started the car. She saw Xiao Yu wearing a pink helmet, riding a shabby electric bike, passing in front of her, and then hurriedly honked the horn. What's wrong? After parking the car, Xiao Yu looked at her with a puzzled look on his face, with question marks between his brows, and asked, "Want to sit in the back of the electric car and smile? Come up. I'll take you back." Qin Rushuan said calmly. "Then what should I do with my electric bike?" Xiao Yu pointed at his electric bike. "Throw it away. It's so old anyway." Qin Rushuan replied expressionlessly. Xiao Yu rolled his eyes and said to her with a smile, "Although it's just a second-hand car, at least I spent money to buy it. Next time, be careful on the road and don't drive too fast." That's it. He rode away on his electric scooter. Watching his departing figure getting farther and farther away and finally disappearing from her sight, Qin Rushuan suddenly had an indescribable emotion influencing her thoughts. On the one hand, it didn't matter, he could do whatever he wanted, but on the other hand, he was her husband after all, how could he ride such a shabby electric bike? Simple thinking, calm analysis. Suddenly, a tall figure appeared in my mind. "Qin Rushuan, wait for me at the bus stop about 100 meters to the right of the school. We will go back together." The mature female professor sent a WeChat message at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. At this moment, Xiao Yu was standing at the bus stop, waiting for his wife to pick him up. At this time, a Porsche drove up and stopped steadily in front of him. Then he opened the door and got in. "Don't ride an electric scooter anymore. I'll buy you a new car, and you can drive from now on," Qin Rushuan said lightly after Xiao Yu got in the car. I think the battery car is pretty good. Why do this father and daughter both like to change people's cars? My father-in-law wants to buy me a Mercedes-Benz, and I don't know what car my wife wants to buy me. Electric bicycles are not safe." Qin Rushuan drove the car while speaking expressionlessly. "What kind of car do you like? Sedan? SUV? Or sports car? I like the author to drive. Xiao pursed his lips and replied helplessly, I think forget it. Since you don't let me ride the electric bike, then I won't ride it. I can take the bus. Do you want Cullinan? Qin Rushuan suddenly asked. Are this? It's not impossible. Wait a minute. Could the Cullinan she was talking about be the one that belongs to my father-in-law? Xiao shrank his neck and asked cautiously, Rushuan, this Cullinan can't be the Cullinan that Dad has. It's his car. If you like it, I can ask him to give it to you. Qin Rushuan said casually. No. Don't do that. Xiao was panicking. He had to panic. On the first day of getting the marriage certificate, his father-in-law lost a Cullinan. He would jump off the building and commit suicide. Whatever. Just tell me whenever you want it. Qin Rushuan said. Oh. Although he did not accept it, Xiao did not refuse it either. After all, it was Cullinan. That's right. You looked so startled last night. Xiao took the opportunity to ask about the progress of her experiment and asked curiously, what's wrong? What happened? Nothing. I suddenly thought of a solution to a certain problem. Qin Rushuan replied. Yeah. Congratulations. Xiao hesitated for a moment and muttered quietly, is it because of my calculation paper? Of course not. Qin Rushuan glanced at him and said calmly, how can your messy content be a solution? Hello, hey. You bitch, believe it or not, I will divorce you. Xiao was almost mad, but he calmed down in the end. There was nothing he could do, other people were going to give him the Cullinan, so what right did he have to be angry? What is this principle called? It seems to be called the Studebaker principle. Wrong. I call it the Cullinan principle. Arriving at the doorstep of Qin Taihong and Zhang Qinhui, Xiao used to come alone as a nephew, but now he came with their daughter and became a son-in-law. It only took one night. It was the mother-in-law who opened the door. When she saw her daughter and son-in-law coming together, the corners of her mouth couldn't help but curl up, and her eyes were full of longing for her grandson and granddaughter. Mom. Where's Dad? Xiao asked. I'm cooking in the kitchen. Zhang Qinhui replied with a smile. At this time, Qin Taihong came out of the kitchen, looked at his daughter and son-in-law, and said with a smile, you two sit down for a while, the food will be ready soon. After serving fruits and snacks, Zhang Qinhui ran into the kitchen to help. In this huge living room, only Xiao and his mature professor wife were left. Xiao? Eh? What's wrong? Are you sure you don't want the Cullinan? Chapter 9 Living Together Tonight. Xiao once again faced the temptation from Cullinan. He was able to resist the temptation the first time, but the second time he was ready to take action. I secretly looked towards the kitchen and saw Qin Taihong cooking. He not only helped me find a job, but also married his daughter to me, but I was thinking about his Cullinan. Is he still a human being? No. That's too cruel to your dad. Xiao shook his head repeatedly and answered seriously, I admit that I like Cullinan very much, but the relationship between your dad and I cannot be measured by a Cullinan. As soon as the words fell, suddenly he thought of something, turned his head and looked at the mature female professor meaningfully, muttering, Are you trying to sow discord between me and your father? Qin Rushuan picked up the teacup in front of her, took a sip, and replied calmly, If you think so, there is nothing I can do. Xiao was a little confused about the thoughts of the mature woman beside him, but he was too lazy to dwell on it, and said softly, Rushuan, can I ask a somewhat abrupt question? It involves some personal privacy, of course, I will also answer my own questions in this regard. I don't have a specific man I like, and I don't know what kind of man I like. Qin Rushuan had already guessed what he wanted to say and answered directly. Yeah. Then I still have a goal. Xiao smiled innocently and said, Don't think I'm being vulgar when I say this, I'm just being realistic. The type of woman I like is actually quite simple. First of all, she must be beautiful, secondly, tall, with big breasts, hips, and long legs, and I like mature women. Qin Rushuan didn't say anything, just sat there quietly drinking tea, but compared to before, she drank water more frequently now, as if deep down she was not as calm as she appeared on the outside. So, is this the reason you promised my parents? Qin Rushuang asked coldly. Xu Yu was stunned for a moment, not knowing how to answer. He simply thought about it, analyzed it calmly, and hesitated to speak. Finally, he answered seriously, "Your parents are so good to me, I don't know how to refuse, and besides." Speaking of which, their voice stopped abruptly. "Do you admit that you have big breasts and a nice butt?" Xu Yu swallowed the words that were about to come out of his mouth. But thinking about it carefully, it shouldn't be bad. First of all, she is beautiful for sure, tall for sure, and has long legs for sure. As for her breasts and buttocks, sorry, I can't tell, but according to the setting of mature women, they should be fuller than young girls. Snort. Man. Even if Xu Yu didn't say it, the clever Qin Rushuan guessed it. She glanced at her cheap husband beside her and said coldly, "Sure enough, none of them are good. Seek truth from facts. I can't just say anything is fine, right? There has to be some pursuit." Xu Yu replied awkwardly but politely. Just then, their food was served one after another and the four of them sat down at the table. Qin Tai Hong and Zhang Qinhui sat together, while Xu Yu sat next to Qin Rushuang, a little close to them. Come. Don't you want to eat the sweet and sour pork ribs that Mom made?" Zhang Qinhui picked up some ribs for Xu Yu and said with a smile, "Eat more." "Thank you, Mom." Xu Yu thanked him politely, then picked up a piece of pork ribs from the bowl and handed it to Qin Rushuang, saying gently, "Rushuang, you have one too." The couple was stunned for a moment, their eyes full of surprise and unpreparedness, but what happened next shocked the couple even more. They saw their daughter pick up the piece of ribs, slowly bring it to her mouth and take a small bite. Then, the couple both smiled with relief. Although Qin Tai Hong and Zhang Qinhui did not say it, they were still worried. After all, it was a forced marriage, and there would be many uncertainties. But from what we can see now, their daughter did not seem to be particularly resistant to Xiao Xu, and Xiao Xu was also quite caring. As Xu Yu picked up some food for Qin Rushuang, the atmosphere at the dinner table gradually became lively and warm, and the couple started to talk more. However, Qin Rushuang remained the same, either not speaking at all or only saying one or two words. Xu Yu chatted with Qin Tai Hong and Zhang Qinhui the whole time. "Xiao Xu, let's move to Shuang's place tonight." Qin Tai Hong said to his son-in-law while drinking a little wine, "Move your things over tomorrow when you have time. Although I knew that we would have to live together sooner or later, I didn't expect my father-in-law to be so anxious. We would live together tonight." I secretly glanced at the mature female professor next to me and saw that she had no expression. Xu Yu nodded silently and said, "Well, let's do it this way." After dinner, Xu Yu began his task as a son-in-law, which was to give the bowls a bath. Watching him busying around, Qin Tai Hong and Zhang Qinhui, who were sitting on the sofa, felt so satisfied with each other that they were about to overflow from their bodies. When Xu Yu finished his work, he sat down obediently next to Qin Rushuang. At this time, the mother-in-law spoke. She just wanted the two of them to live in harmony, not to quarrel casually, and not to mention divorce casually. Then she took out several real estate certificates from the drawer. "Frost. These are all what my parents saved, and now they are all handed over to you." Zhang Qinhui handed the property certificate to her daughter and said earnestly, "We agreed. As long as you get married, these will be given to you." Qin Rushuang took the property certificate and flipped through it casually. She couldn't help but frown and asked, "What about the other two commercial buildings?" The father-in-law and mother-in-law were embarrassed. You should also leave some retirement money for your parents." Xu Yu coughed lightly and said leisurely, "My parents have worked hard for most of their lives, it's not easy." Qin Rushuang glanced at him and didn't say anything more. In fact, she was just asking casually, she really didn't want those two commercial buildings. The old father-in-law gave him a grateful look, and silently upgraded his son-in-law's Mercedes-Benz to a Porsche. However, he didn't expect that. Xu Yu was thinking about his Cullinan in his heart, but now was not the right time. Let the bullets fly for a while. "Xiao Xu, when will you bring Shuang to meet your parents?" Zhang Qinhui asked. "Anytime, anywhere. But I haven't mentioned it yet, not because I'm worried that my parents will disagree. After all, with a daughter-in-law like Rushuang, my parents will definitely agree, it's just. Xu Yu pursed his lips, glanced at the mature female professor beside him, and explained, "Just follow Rushuang, she's ready, I have no problem." Zhang Qinhui sighed, and said with an apologetic look on her face, then I can only let my father-in-law and mother-in-law down for the time being. Dad. What's going on? Xu Yu was called into the study by Qin Tai Hong and looked at him with confusion on his face. Shh. Keep your voice down, walls have ears. Qin Tai Hong took out a bank card from his pocket and handed it to his son-in-law, saying seriously, I'll give you some dignity as a man. Don't let Shuang know about this. After taking the bank card handed over, Xu Yu's brows were slightly confused, and he felt that his father-in-law was making a big deal out of nothing. Qin Rushuang looked like the kind of woman who didn't like to be in charge of financial power. What would happen if she knew about it? Be careful on the road. Go home more often. Don't quarrel, don't fight, and don't mention divorce casually. The couple sent their daughter and son-in-law downstairs, and then watched the Porsche go farther and farther away until it disappeared right under their noses. At the same time, Qin Rushuang drove towards the gate of the community. Suddenly she turned a corner and then parked the car there. What's wrong? Aren't you going home? Xu Yu asked curiously. The mature female professor looked at Xu Yu and silently extended her hand. Bring it here. Chapter 10 I'm going to drive this big car. What do you want? Xu Yu pretended to be innocent and asked knowingly, and said carefully, Rushuang. I don't understand what you are saying. Qin Rushuang still had that cold face, and said calmly, my dad called you to his study. If nothing unexpected happens, he secretly gave you some private money, right? So just hand it over obediently. I will give you pocket money every month. Ouch. I used to think that you weren't the type of woman who liked to be in charge of financial power, but it turned out that I was slapped in the face too quickly. Xu Yu was almost speechless. He didn't expect that a mature woman like Qin Rushuang would show a huge desire for possession when facing wealth. He had overestimated her a little bit. But then again, should he hand over this private money? After all, it involves the dignity of men. Give. This is my supplementary gold card. Qin Rushuang took out a golden credit card from her bag, handed it to Xu Yu, and said, you can overdraw about 2 million. It's not included in your pocket money. It's emergency hedging funds. You can spend, but every purchase needs to have a basis, and my phone can receive text messages. No. Why does this scene seem familiar? Xu Yu pursed his lips. Facing the dignity of a man, he decided to be tough and retorted, are you teaching me how to do things? However, Qin Rushuang didn't say anything, but just looked at him quietly, still holding the supplementary gold card in her hand. Oh, here you go. Finally, Xu Yu made a concession and handed the bank card known as man's dignity to his mature professor wife. Of course, he also took away the credit card, in case he needed money somewhere, this card might come in handy. After confiscating someone's secret fund, Qin Rushuang turned the car around and drove directly out of the community. Along the way, Xu Yu was quite depressed. He felt that his life was being controlled by this woman. He clearly had no emotional basis for her, but for some reason, he listened to his wife inexplicably. But then again, her desire for control was indeed very strong, and it seemed that she liked to have everything under her control. Are you angry? Qin Rushuang, who was driving, suddenly asked. No. How could I be angry? The money originally belonged to you, why should I be angry? Xu Yu pursed his lips and answered calmly. Qin Rushuang glanced at him and said leisurely, although our marriage is a bit dramatic and a bit unexpected. But no matter what, since you and I have obtained the marriage certificate, I will fulfill the obligations of a wife. I hope you can understand my intentions. Oh. I know. Xu Yu grumbled and whispered, don't worry, I'm really not angry. The two of them didn't speak to each other for some time afterwards, until Qin Rushuang drove the car into a residential area and brought her young husband to her house. This is a large flat of more than 200 square meters, with 5 bedrooms, 2 living rooms and 3 bathrooms. The decoration is mainly light grey, modern and simple, which is both grand and modern and fashionable. The key location is particularly good and is located in the core commercial area. This will be your room from now on. I still have work to do, so please do as you please. Watching her walk into the study, Xu Yu couldn't help but whisper behind her back. She said in the car that she would fulfill her wife's duties, but now she has abandoned her husband. What kind of wife's duties are these? However, Xiu has also gotten used to her style of doing things. How to put it, she is a strong woman with an exaggerated desire for control, so she still has to rely on herself for some things. I went downstairs to buy 2 pairs of shorts and a t-shirt, then went back home to take a shower. After coming out, I cut some fruit and sat alone on the sofa watching TV and eating fruit plate. Buzz. As I was absorbed in watching, my cell phone on the coffee table vibrated. I picked it up and took a look. It was a WeChat message from the mature female professor. Qin Rushuang, I'm thirsty. Am I your husband or your servant? Although he kept chattering, he stood up obediently, took a bottle of water from the kitchen, and went to Qin Rushuang's study. He knocked on the door gently, then pushed it open and walked in. He saw her sitting in front of the computer, holding a pen in her hand, calculating something on the manuscript paper. He walked slowly to Qin Rushuang and handed her a bottle of water. Unscrew it. Qin Rushuang didn't even say thank you, and just asked Xiu to work. Xiu at %. I'm so fucking angry. I have decided to drive this big car. Even God can't keep it. I said so. Crack. It's unscrewed. After unscrewing the bottle cap, Xiu stood beside her and took a look, then asked curiously, "What are you calculating?" "I have a collaborative project with Professor Jiang Ru from the Department of Mathematics. I am currently solving a mathematical problem about the properties of complex dynamics, which is related to the specific calculation of the electronic structure." Faced with her young husband who knew nothing but had an explosive thirst for knowledge, Qin Rushuang did not show any impatience, but instead explained things to him carefully. "Oh, complex power system. It just so happens that I am an authority on this subject. Even though this is a mathematical problem and Xiu is a physicist, he was nominated for the Nobel Prize in Physics because he solved a mathematical problem in physics, so his mathematical ability is incredibly strong. Secondly, the conformal transformation group in two-dimensional conformal field theory is closely related to the analytic mapping on the complex plane, and the symmetry of the complex dynamical system plays a big role here. As for Xiu, he studies field theory. Hiss. Rushuang, I have an unrealistic idea. Xiu said seriously, how about I help you solve it? Qin Rushuang suddenly stopped writing, looked back at him standing next to her, then opened a drawer, took out an advanced book on complex functions, handed it to him silently, and said, understand it first. Oops. It's so fucking humiliating. She actually used a book on complex analysis to humiliate me. Xiu was so angry that his nose was crooked. He glanced at what the mature female professor was solving and said unhappily, it's just a second-order linear differential equation. It's such a simple thing. I can do it too. Provocation method. Then Qin Rushuang was fooled. Handing him the paper and pen, Qin Rushuang said seriously, come here. Are you really coming? Xiu shrank his head, a hint of hesitation and embarrassment on his face. This tactic is called playing hard to get. Are you scared? Qin Rushuang rolled her eyes and said calmly, don't brag in front of me in the future. Who said you were scared? Come on, I can solve it with my eyes closed. Xiu took the paper and pen, copied down the second-order linear differential equation, and silently left the mature female professor's study. Just after closing the door, it suddenly opened again. Xiu stuck his head in and asked with embarrassment, Rushuang? How is radial distribution defined? This trick? I really forgot this trick. Chapter 11 He seems to have solved the problem. dr equals for a caret 2 r caret 2, r is the radial wave function, and for a caret 2 is the volume of a spherical shell with radius r. Regarding the node part, the position where the radial distribution is 0 is determined by the principal quantum number n and the angular quantum number L. Qin Rushuang said this, turned around and looked at Xiu at the door, and said calmly, is there anything else you don't know? Almost, it's not that I don't know how to do it, it's because it's too simple and I forgot. Xiu answered awkwardly but stubbornly. Silently closing the door of the study, Xiu came to the coffee table in the living room with paper and pen, sat on the floor and began to solve the problem about the complex power system. It was still the same as before. He would not write down all the contents clearly, but write selectively, and then focus on the key points. I took a closer look at the second-order linear differential equation, and combined it with the condensed matter physics that the mature professor was engaged in. If nothing unexpected happens, this equation should be used for the phase transition process in the periodic structure. I would make a bold guess. Her project is probably related to the superconducting behavior near the critical magnetic field. It's settled. Then let's do this. Xiao Xu picked up his pen and began to deconstruct the equation. This was a big project, it would take some time to settle. At the same time, Qin Rushuang, who was in the study, was also trying to solve this problem, but she was in a dilemma. It seemed that she could continue exploring, but she felt that there was something wrong with the whole process, and she didn't know where the specific problem lay. Well, Qin Rushuang put down the pen helplessly and pressed her acupoints gently, her brows full of melancholy and fatigue. She didn't feel much about the sudden marriage, but she was very anxious about the stagnation of scientific research. Qin Rushuang and Jiang Ru's project had been in place for almost 3 months, and they had applied for relevant funds, but they hadn't even done the preliminary verification work. To be more precise, they had messed it up. The verification work had been completed and handed over to the relevant departments, but who knew that one day, a huge error was discovered in a certain process. She stretched helplessly, causing her entire chest to be exposed, accompanied by the sound of fabric being pulled to the limit. Fortunately, the clothes were of good quality, otherwise it would have torn long ago. However, this also indirectly proved Xiao Yu's guess that the 33-year-old top mature woman Qin Rushuang had an unusually large chest, but it was just covered too well on a normal day. Qin Rushuang got up and left the study. When she opened the door, she turned around and saw Xiao Yu sitting on the floor with his upper body leaning on the coffee table. The pen in his hand kept writing something on the white paper. Just like a child doodling. I walked closer and took a look. There was a hint of surprise in his eyes, but after a closer look, I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He was indeed solving the second-order linear differential equation, but he was solving it blindly, and the whole content was filled with a messy feeling. Never mind. He is a little stupid, but he has a strong desire for knowledge. Let him do whatever he wants, just don't disturb me while I'm working. Take your time to calculate. I'm going to take a shower. Go to bed early tonight and go to school together tomorrow morning. After Qin Rushuang said this, she walked silently towards her bedroom. Suddenly, halfway through, she turned her head and glanced at Xiao Yu, who was concentrating. After hesitating for a long time, she said softly, "Xiao Yu, will you blame me for sleeping in a separate room from you? How? Do you want to covet my young and strong body?" Xiao Yu turned his head to look at her and asked with a wicked look on his face. "Go to bed early." Qin Rushuang just rolled her eyes and walked into her bedroom, then slammed the door shut with a loud bang. The mature female professor vented her dissatisfaction with him in this way, but it was a little bit wasteful. Actually, Xiao Yu was eager to sleep with him tonight, but considering the reality, some things had to be done step by step. Bang, bang, bang. Why aren't you up yet? The next morning, after Qin Rushuang finished washing up, she knocked on her husband's room door. Seeing no response, Qin Rushuang made a voice call to Xiao Yu. Throw the handkerchief, and gently place it behind the child. Don't tell him. Hurry up and catch him. There was a ringing sound in the room and the call was connected the next second. Still asleep? Aren't you going to work? Qin Rushuang asked coldly. I'm a little tired, I won't go today. I'll take a leave later. You, please be careful on the road. Xiao Yu explained drowsily on the phone. Qin Rushuang hung up the call directly, went back to her study, packed up briefly, took everything she needed, and then left for work. When the mature female professor returned to her office, she took out a stack of information from her bag. Just then, her good sister, Professor Jiang Ru, an older single woman in the Department of Mathematics, walked into the office with breakfast in her hand. Didn't you eat? I brought it to you. He sat down in front of Qin Rushuang and handed her the breakfast. How is the problem solved? Jiang Ru asked. It's still the same. Qin Rushuang handed her a stack of documents and said with a slightly distressed look on her face, I don't know what to do next. Jiang Ru got the document, opened it and looked at it carefully. She couldn't help showing a trace of helplessness and bitterness, and muttered, that's it. If this is investigated, both of us will probably be criticized. You are better than me. After all, you are the deputy director, and I will protect you. Qin Rushuang said seriously, don't worry. How to protect it? Although we are in the same branch, You are in the physics department and I am in the mathematics department. Jiang Ru curled her lips and said with a frustrated look, forget it. It's also my fault for not being careful. If there is a problem in this area, just take it as a lesson. After that, I continued to flip through my good sister's manuscripts, wondering if I had read them or not. Huh. You wrote this? Turning to the back. Jiang Ru suddenly raised her head and looked at Qin Rushuan with a puzzled look on her face. She handed over a few manuscripts and asked curiously, it doesn't feel like your handwriting. When Qin Rushuan saw those manuscripts, she shuddered all over, and then a bright blush appeared on her pretty face, even extending to her ears and neck. When did he put them in? Well, I. Qin Rushuan didn't know how to answer for a moment, and she hesitated for a long time without being able to explain clearly. My student. I got stuck in there by accident. Qin Rushuan held it in for a long time and finally figured out the reason. Oh. But it's a mess. I can feel that he knows some math, but it seems that he doesn't know a lot. Out of professionalism, Jiang Ru began to comment, frowning and muttering. Indeed. I admit that he is like that. Qin Rushuan whispered in her heart. Suddenly, Jiang Ru stood up suddenly and looked at the manuscript in horror, her eyes full of excitement and indescribable joy. Solved. It seems that this equation has been solved. Chapter 12. My wife came back from school. After hearing what her best sister said, Qin Rushuan was stunned for a long time. Looking at Jiang Ru holding her husband's draft, she asked with a little confusion, Sister Jiang, what did you just say? What was solved? It's that equation. The end of this manuscript seems to have solved our problem. Jiang Ru looked up at her and answered excitedly. How is this possible? Others may not understand what level he is at, but I know it best. Qin Rushuan frowned, her brows full of doubt and confusion. She pursed her lips and murmured, Sister Jiang, please look more carefully to see if it has been resolved. And you said the content was a mess before, but then you said something about it being resolved. The first part is a bit nonsense. I have no doubt about that, but the latter part has a story. Jiang Ru stood up hurriedly, walked to her sister's side, pointed to a certain step in the manuscript, and said, Look. If fz is a non-zero solution to equation 1, then fz has the following characteristics. First, fz tends to infinity exponentially in the adjacent angular domains 1 and 2, so the ray args equals 0 is a 0-point convergence line of fz. Second, it tends to 0 exponentially in omega, so neither the rays args equals 0 nor args equals 0 plus 1 are 0-point convergence lines of fz. Good. Here is the proof of the theorem. Assuming that Gz is another non-zero solution to equation 1 and is linearly related to fz, we know that as R, we have. Jiang Ru explained the process in the manuscript, and Qin Rushuan listened attentively, her eyes fixed on her husband's manuscript. As the content continued to deepen, the fog that had been hanging over her heart was gradually being cleared by the magical mathematics. That's right. Although I haven't verified it yet, I can basically be sure that with the intuition of a mathematics professor, I boldly predicted, the final conclusion is correct. Jiang Ru assured solemnly after finishing her explanation. At this time, Qin Rushuan was still in a trance. She couldn't understand why her young husband, a silly-looking little man, could solve a problem that even she couldn't solve. This sounded a bit unbelievable, even unreasonable. Etc. The night before last he seemed to have helped himself solve a physics problem. If the first time was a blind cat catching a dead mouse, then what was the reason for the second time? Was it coincidence? Or luck? But, combined with the previous content, I have a feeling that I hit the jackpot by accident. Jiang Ru pursed her lips, turned to the previous content, and muttered, What is the meaning of these contents? It seems to have nothing to do with the ones at the back. It seems to be written casually. Let me see. I got someone's manuscript again and read it carefully over and over again. It was indeed as my good sister said, as if it was pieced together intentionally. Could it be? Could it be that he understands everything? He just didn't want me to know, so he wrote nonsense in the front. When the really critical moment came, he gave it his all. No. I don't believe it. How can he understand everything when he doesn't even know the definition of radial distribution? Frost. Who is this? Which student of yours? Jiang Ru had some evil thoughts and wanted to take this student from her good sister. From what she saw so far, this student's math level was very high, probably as high as that of a third or fourth floor. But Qin Rushuan saw through her bestie's thoughts at a glance, and it's not that she couldn't give it to her. If Xiu Yu was really talented in mathematics, and let her bestie cultivate her well, maybe she would embark on the same scientific research path as herself, but it's just that she can't be sure. Just in case. If that happened, he would be lucky both times, which would be a joke. No rush. If he really has a talent for mathematics, I will give it to you. Qin Rushuan pursed her lips and said seriously, let's talk about it when I'm sure. After the words fell. Looking at my best sister's ordinary face and figure, it seemed that a certain kind of worry disappeared out of thin air. Think about it. Actually, I can teach math, too. Xiu Yu, who had taken a leave of absence from work, first moved his things from the apartment, such as clothes, pants, shoes, etc., as well as his own laptop, and finally moved out. Of course, some of the deposit was deducted due to contract issues. In the past, I would have fought with the landlord a long time ago, but now I have money in my pocket, so I'll just deduct a little. Harmony brings wealth. Returning to the mature professor's home, which was actually also his own home, Xiu Yu collapsed comfortably on the sofa. Then, a phone call suddenly came in. He looked at the caller and answered it directly. Hello. You kid, why are you looking for me instead of staying in the lab? Xiu Yu asked unhappily, crossing his legs. The caller was Zhe Jingjing, nicknamed Hypocritical, a first-year graduate student in the Department of Physics, and his supervisor was none other than Xiu Yu's mature professor wife, Qin Rushuan. At this moment, Zhe Jingjing on the phone asked in a frivolous manner, Brother Xiu? Do you want to take any errands? Get lost. Xiu Yu cursed, if you have something to say, just say it. If you have to fart, just fart. I just didn't see you, Brother Xiu, in the library, so I wanted to call and ask about the situation. Zhe Jingjing asked, what happened to Brother Xiu? Are you sick? Are you suffering from kidney deficiency? You kid. Believe it or not, I'm whispering something in your mentor's ear. Xiu Yu curled his lips and replied leisurely, my current identity is quite awesome, you better serve me well, otherwise. Hey there. Brother Xiu, you are here again. When was it not me who treated you to midnight snack? Have you ever paid a dime? Zhe Jingjing said unhappily. That's true. Xiu Yu smiled, and suddenly thought of something, and asked in a low voice, your mentor is Qin Rushuan, right? Yes. What's wrong? Zhe Jingjing asked curiously. Nothing. She seems quite aloof. Xiu Yu paused and continued to ask, has she ever scolded you guys? Speaking of which. Zhe Jingjing felt wronged and replied bitterly, Brother Xiu, don't be fooled by Director Qin's condescending appearance. She can be very frightening when she gets angry, especially when she makes mistakes. I just want to bang my head against the wall and die. Yeah? I really want to see her fierce look. Xiu Yu murmured in his heart for a moment, then asked casually, speaking of which, don't you have to go to the laboratory today? I was going to go. But then I suddenly received a notice that I didn't need to go to the laboratory today, Zhe Jingjing explained. Yeah. It could be. Before Xiu Yu could finish his words, the door was suddenly opened from the outside. The next second, Qin Rushuan appeared at the door. Chapter 13 I'm planning to have a baby. Faced with Qin Rushuan who returned home unexpectedly, Xiu Yu's head was buzzing and his thoughts went blank for a moment. Brother Xiu. Brother Xiu. What's going on? Are you still there? Hello. Zhe Jingjing, who was still unclear about the situation, asked frantically on the phone. After being called by the fake Syria several times, Xiu Yu finally came back to his senses from the shock, silently hung up the phone, hurriedly stood up and asked in confusion, Rushuan. You, why did you suddenly come home? Are you feeling unwell? Do you need me to accompany you to the hospital? Qin Rushuan glanced at him coldly, closed the door, took off her shoes and put on slippers, then walked towards him. The next second, she took out his manuscript from her bag and put it on the coffee table, and asked indifferently, tell me, what's going on? Oh, well, the situation is like this. Xiu Yu replied awkwardly but politely, I calculated until the early morning last night, then sneaked into your study and put this manuscript in between your manuscript papers. I thought. Qin Rushuang frowned and said unhappily, "These are not what I want to know, don't pick up useless things for me." In fact, Xiao knew what she wanted to hear, but he deliberately picked up some useless things to get away with it. He couldn't help shrinking his head and asked cautiously, Then what do you want to hear, Rushuang?" Qin Rushuang bit her lip lightly, stared at her cheap husband closely, and said, "Professor Jiang Ru from the Department of Mathematics has read your manuscript and thinks that you have solved the problem of complex dynamic system for second-order linear differential equations." Oh. I thought something else. Xiao heaved a sigh of relief and sat back on the sofa, crossing his legs while looking at his mature professor wife with a haughty look, and said in a sly way, "This shouldn't be the case. I said, as long as I make a slight move, it will be the limit of this problem. Rushuang, am I awesome?" If Xiao was avoiding her gaze and acting timid at this moment, Qin Rushuang would definitely think that there was something fishy going on. However, he did the opposite. He admitted it openly and arrogantly, which made Qin Rushuang a little suspicious. Was it just another coincidence? The first time was a coincidence, but the second time was a little too much of a coincidence. Qin Rushuang stood there and looked at him. Looking at the complacent little man, she felt a little confused, and also a little angry. She said coldly, "Since you admit it, that's good. It means you have some talent in mathematics. Next month is the registration time for Fudan University's postgraduate entrance examination. You should go and take the postgraduate entrance examination. Etc." Did I hear that correctly? She wants me to take the postgraduate entrance examination. Xiao looked at her in bewilderment. After coming to his senses, he pointed at himself and asked, I'm going to take the postgraduate entrance exam. Any questions? You can just take the test and pass it. It shouldn't be difficult, right? Qin Rushuan said calmly, "You've passed the line. I'll help you with the rest. I'll train you well in the future. Get some scientific research results in the first year, and study for a doctorate in the second year. After you graduate with a doctorate, I'll apply to the school to keep you." No. I came here to enjoy life, but why do I have to become a slave in scientific research for no apparent reason? Listening to the career plan planned by the mature female professor, Xiao was a little overwhelmed. He said cautiously, I may not be able to do it. I just came out to work because I didn't pass the exam. And having a scientist in the family is enough. As for me, I will just be the man behind a successful woman. However, but to Qin Rushuang's ears, his sophistry meant, Xiao, I'm a pleasure-seeking person. You graduated with a PhD. I'm going to have a baby. Qin Rushuang was silent for a long time, and suddenly spoke to Xiao. As soon as their voice fell, turned and walked towards the door. In fact, it was because my face was flushed and I wanted to escape from this place quickly. I'm going to work. Qin Rushuan suddenly opened the door and ran away quickly, leaving Xiao sitting on the sofa in a daze. When Xiao came to his senses, the mature female professor was no longer in the room. However, her words about wanting to have a baby were still ringing in his ears. But then again, was she just empty promises to me? Graduate school entrance exam. I didn't pass the exam. Even though Xiao had been nominated for the Nobel Prize, he had never taken the postgraduate entrance examination. The key point was that it had been so long that he had forgotten some basic content. Sadness. He actually used the child to threaten my progress. I was planning to go home and take a day off today, but ended up running back to school. Qin Rushuan, who was driving, was a little overwhelmed. In fact, she herself didn't know why she said such words. She just said them inexplicably, and then there was no room for maneuver. But then again, on the day she and Xiao got the marriage certificate, Qin Rushuan was also ready to have a baby. Even if she didn't want a child, Qin Taihong and Zhang Qinhui would force her to give birth. Back to school. Qin Rushuan stayed in her office, picked up her phone and sent a notification in a WeChat group. Qin Rushuan, meet in the laboratory in half an hour. Student number 1, got it. Student number 2, got it. Student number 3, got it. Zhou Jingjing, got it. 20 minutes later, in a laboratory in the physics department. Zhou Jingjing and several others were staying in the conference room, their faces filled with worry and confusion. They were clearly notified in the morning that they were to have a day off today, but suddenly they had to work again for no apparent reason. What's going on? This is too sudden. At this moment, Zhou Jingjing frowned and muttered bitterly, you said in the morning that you don't need to come to the lab, but now you have to come again. What happened to Director Qin? Just finished playing crickets behind. The door of the conference room was suddenly opened, and Qin Rushuan walked in with a stern face. The students present held their breath and looked at their instructor nervously, feeling that something was wrong with her today. At the same time, Xiao Xu stayed at home, eating and waiting to die, and then he received a call from his father-in-law, who asked him what kind of Porsche he liked and wanted to order one for him right away. I originally wanted to choose the Porsche 911 GT3 RS, but considering that the landing price was nearly 5 million, I finally chose an ordinary 911. When Qin Taihong heard that it was an ordinary model, he immediately complained a little. Xiao Xu, you look down on Dad's financial resources. Well, I'll buy you a turbos. The father-in-law on the phone was so arrogant that Xiao Xu was moved. After the words fell. Then I heard my father-in-law cough a few times and asked tentatively, Xiao Xu, did Shuang mention the child to you? What a coincidence. She just mentioned it. Oh, she didn't. Xiao Xu pursed his lips and said earnestly, but Dad, I will work hard and make sure you and Mom become grandpa and grandma. Just finished. Then I heard my mother-in-law's voice coming from the phone. More money. Give me more money. Rolls-Royce, you must buy a Rolls-Royce. Chapter 14. Don't buy it, someone will give you a movie ticket. Qin Taihong and Zhang Qinhui have lived for almost half of their lives, and they only have two hopes left in life. The first is their daughter's marriage, and the second is to have a grandson or granddaughter. Currently, Xiao Xu has helped them fulfill their first wish, and as for the second wish, although the couple were very anxious, after all, their daughter had just received the marriage certificate, and they went to induce the birth right away. It was more or less unreasonable. The key point was that it would cause their daughter's disgust, and then she would say that she wanted to be a dink. Then all their efforts would be in vain. However, after hearing what Xiao Xu said, the couple rekindled the flame of hope. At this time, the couple's faces were full of excitement, and they wished they could become grandparents the next day. Qin Taihong took a few deep breaths and said seriously, Xiao Xu, your mother-in-law and I were right about you. Okay. I'll leave this matter to you. Dad. Don't worry. Xiao Xu pursed his lips and whispered, actually, Rushuan gives me the feeling that she also wants a child, but she suppressed this expectation. After all, there is no emotional basis for my marriage to her. But it's okay, emotions can be cultivated. I believe that with my sincerity, she will let down her guard against me. Let Xiao Xu give us a deadline. We can't keep waiting. The mother-in-law on the phone spoke anxiously. Xiao Xu, you heard it too. Your mother-in-law asked you to give her some time. Qin Taihong said. Time. According to the agreement, I will get a doctoral degree. From postgraduate entrance examination to doctoral graduation, it would take at least 3 years, right? Xiao Xu pondered in his mind, and then answered seriously, 3 years, within 3 years, I will let you and Mom become grandpa and grandma. As soon as the voice fell, I heard the couple on the other end of the phone whispering something. Xiao Xu. 3 years is too long, we must seize the day. Zhang Qinhui said earnestly, Xiao Xu, it's okay that you are young, but Shuang is already 33. You have to consider her age. If she is over 35, she is considered an older mother. So Xiao Xu, you have to work harder. Ouch. Don't put pressure on Xiao Xu. Qin Taihong's voice came from the phone, and he seemed to be helping Xiao Xu out. However, although it seemed like a relief, it was actually a disguised form of pressure. Xiao Xu smiled bitterly and said helplessly, okay. I will try my best and will not let the organization down. At last. I didn't let my father-in-law buy a Rolls-Royce. After all, the family already has a Cullinan, but it has been temporarily borrowed by my father-in-law. Of course, we still have to have a car, which is the 911 Turbo S that Qin Taihong mentioned before. After hanging up the phone, Xiao Xu sighed helplessly and pressed his temple. His brows were full of distress and melancholy about life. How could it be so slightly different from the hedonistic life I imagined? Xiao Xu, do you have to work overtime at school today? 10 minutes before getting off work, Qin Rushuan received a WeChat message from her young husband. At that time, she was in her office, preparing to tidy up, and then continue to work overtime tonight. Qin Rushuan, what's wrong? Qin Rushuan leaned back in her chair and silently sent him a message. After a while, someone sent a reply. Xiao, I went to the market to buy some food. If you have to work overtime, I will bring it to you. If you don't have to work overtime, we can have dinner together. Looking at the content above, Qin Rushuan was stunned for more than 10 seconds, bit her lips lightly, picked up the phone and quickly edited the message. Qin Rushuan, no overtime, go home on time. Xiao, okay. Putting down her phone, Qin Rushuan sat there in a daze, her mind a little confused. In fact, she didn't know how to face Xiao. This marriage without emotional foundation was like a ship without a compass in the vast ocean. The final outcome was to be lost in the ocean of life. But I don't know why. Although there is no passionate love, there is an indescribable warmth. Perhaps this is the meaning of home. Xuan. Are you going to work overtime tonight? Jiang Ru from the next department found her and interrupted the mature professor's dream of home. Qin Rushuan came back to her senses and shook her head silently. Seeing that her bestie didn't have to work overtime today, Jiang Ru's eyes lit up and she said excitedly, then let's go shopping, have dinner together, and then watch a movie. What do you think? Are you satisfied with my arrangement? Before, Qin Rushuan went with her, but now that she had a young husband, she naturally refused. A little tired. I want to go home and rest early. Qin Rushuan replied indifferently. Hey, don't be such a bummer. Jiang Ru walked to Qin Rushuan's side, took her little hand and shook it, pouting and begging, please, just stay with me tonight, okay? Acting coquettishly and cutely. Qin Rushuan might have obeyed before getting the marriage certificate, but after getting the marriage certificate, it was impossible to obey her. Sister Jiang. I'm really a little tired, please let me go. Qin Rushuan pursed her lips and refused again. Yeah. Well, that's fine. Jiang Ru sighed, then said seriously, but you should also take a break. You work overtime so late every day and work so hard every day. You make it very difficult for us. After that, he took out 2 movie tickets and said to himself bitterly, what a pity. I ended up going to watch it alone, but suddenly I don't really want to watch it anymore. Forget it. I might as well throw it away. Jiang Ru had just thrown the ticket into the trash can when Qin Rushuan's phone on the table vibrated twice. Don't you check your phone? Seeing her best sister sitting there motionless, Jiang Ru asked in confusion, what if it's something important? Let's talk about it when we get home. Qin Rushuan murmured softly. 2. Now let's see, if it's work-related again, your rest plan will be ruined. Jiang Ru nodded, and then said, in that case, let's make an appointment next time, you should have a good rest, go to bed early. Watching her best friend leave her office, Qin Rushuan picked up her cell phone and took a look. Sure enough, it was a message from her husband at home. Xiao, after dinner, let us go watch a movie together. Xiao, what kind of movie do you want to watch? Romance? Science fiction? Inspirational? Choose one quickly, I'll buy it online. Watch a movie. Qin Rushuan seemed to have thought of something. She looked silently at her trash can and saw that Jiang Ru's 2 movie tickets were still there, and they were intact. Qin Rushuan, you don't have to buy it. Professor Jiang Ru from the Department of Mathematics just gave me 2 movie tickets. Bending down to pick up the 2 movie tickets, Qin Rushuan blew on them gently, and suddenly a trace of shame appeared between her brows. Sister Jiang. You can understand that, right? Chapter 15. The mature professor's legs are numb. Qin Rushuan returned home, and as she opened the door, she smelled the fragrance of food, but did not see Xiao. You're back. Sit on the sofa for a while, I'll be there soon. Xiao heard the door open, walked out of the kitchen, looked at the dusty mature female professor, and said gently. Qin Rushuan nodded and silently came to the sofa in the living room. When she sat down, her eyes couldn't help but look towards the kitchen. She saw her young husband wearing a cooking apron, standing in front of the stove and stirring the spoon. Suddenly, an indescribable emotion surged in her heart. Life is like rising in the morning and setting in the evening, and the days are like firewood, rice, oil and salt. Compared with the so-called romance, I seem to prefer the ordinary and real life of fireworks. After a while, Xiao hurried out of the kitchen carrying the dishes. Rushuan. It's time to eat. Qin Rushuan stood up and walked over slowly, taking a look at the dishes on the table. They were all ordinary home-cooked dishes, such as 3 fresh vegetables and fried tofu, but they looked quite good. After she sat down, Xiao Xu handed her a bowl and chopsticks. Too many. I'll give you all of these. Looking at the full bowl of rice in front of him, Qin Rushuan skimmed half of it into his bowl. Eat so little. Xiao Xu frowned slightly and said in a puzzled tone, last time I brought you a midnight snack, and you finished a bowl of spicy hot pot in one gulp. Oh. I see, you want to have a midnight snack after watching the movie, right? Hearing him say that he ate up a whole bowl of spicy hot pot last time, Qin Rushuan blushed instantly, turned her head slightly, and said with a slightly annoyed tone, you talk too much nonsense, are you going to let me eat? Okay. Don't say it. Xiao Xu smiled wickedly, and then said, hurry up and try my cooking. Qin Rushuan picked up the chopsticks, gently picked up a piece of fried tofu, and then carefully put it into her mouth. In an instant, a hint of surprise flashed across her cold and charming face. She didn't expect that his cooking skills were quite good. It was so delicious, 100 times more delicious than her parents. Not bad, isn't it? Xiao Xu smiled smugly and said, I usually don't make any moves. Even your parents haven't tasted my food. Qin Rushuan didn't say anything, just sat there quietly eating. While eating, she suddenly asked, have you ever cooked for other women? I mean, you know it yourself. I don't want to explain anything. Just tell me the truth. Let me think. Xiao Li, Xiao Hong, Xiao Zi, Xiao Zhen, Xiao Xia, Xiao. Xiao Xu was talking nonsense, and then he noticed the mature female professor next to him. His expression was a little distorted. He quickly changed his words and said, I'm kidding. You're the first one. Stinky man. Qin Rushuan chirped in her heart, but ignored him and continued eating the food in front of her. After dinner, the dishes on the table were almost ready. Although Qin Rushuan eats little rice, she eats a lot of dishes, almost half of which are eaten by her. However, based on the appetite of the mature female professor, Xiao Xu boldly speculated that her breasts are big and her butt is very perky. Of course, he still needs to verify it with his own hands in the end. After a quick packing, Xiao Xu and Qin Rushuan prepared to go out to see a movie. It happened that the cinema was not far from home, but they still decided to drive there. When they arrived at the cinema, the movie they were going to watch happened to be about to start, so the two of them walked in together. Because it is a love movie that makes people pee, all the people who come to watch this movie are couples, and they all want to stick together, except Xiao Xu and Qin Rushuan. Although they have obtained a marriage certificate, they keep a distance from each other. However, after all, the seats are connected, no matter how much distance they keep, they are bound to bump into each other. Why is it a corner location? Xiao Xu was a little dissatisfied with this seat. Not only was it far from the screen, but it was also quite off to the side. Free. What else do you want? Qin Rushuan replied indifferently. That's true. But then again, why did she give you 2 movie tickets? Xiao Xu looked at her in confusion and asked curiously, shouldn't it be just one? You go ask her, I don't know either. Qin Rushuan replied. Xiao Xu shrugged, not wanting to dwell on it, and waited obediently for the movie to begin. However, while waiting, he smelled that familiar scent from the mature female professor again. In fact, Xiao Xu had never really understood whether this scent was from perfume or from the marinated cosmetics. The movie starts. Then the opening is a lightning strike. A man and a woman hugged each other tightly and bit each other's lips. Well. Xiao Xu felt physically uncomfortable, and then his eyes quietly moved towards the mature female professor beside him, but he never expected that Qin Rushuan was also secretly looking at him. Qin Rushuan hastily retracted her gaze. At this moment, her face was flushed and she even felt her whole body was hot. Of course, this was not because she was in heat, but because of the shame after being caught peeking. As for Xiao Xu, he was also a little embarrassed. He didn't expect that when he turned his head, their eyes would meet. Back to the movie. The kissing scene didn't last too long. The man died in a car accident, and the woman hugged the man's body and cried so heartbreakingly. After crying, there is another transition, and the plot comes to 2 years later. The woman met another man who looked exactly like the man who died before, and then they met, fell in love. It's only been half an hour. Is it going to be the finale? Xiao took out his cell phone and checked the time. According to common sense, it should be almost the end, but only half an hour had passed. As soon as the words fell, a large truck came on the other side and hit the second man to death. Xiao? Although I didn't understand the plot, the speed at which people died was good. I love watching it. I like watching it. Not surprisingly, a third man appeared, looking exactly like the first two who had died. Die. Die. Die for me. Xiao was looking forward to it in his heart. It's a pity that 20 minutes have passed, he has died yet, and he will most likely live until the end of the movie. For a time, I completely lost the motivation to watch the movie. I quietly looked at the mature female professor next to me and suddenly found that she was actually asleep, sitting there with her head slightly lowered, motionless. Simple thinking, calm analysis. Xiao gently pulled her sleeve, and the mature and delicate body wrapped in an OL uniform slowly fell over. Then he hurriedly supported her head and let her lean on his shoulder. Take a closer look. Actually, it's quite cute. Rushuan. Rushuan. Wake up, the movie is over. A sound came from her ears, waking up the sleeping Qin Rushuan. When she opened her eyes in a daze, her brain was still in a state of shutdown. Sudden. She sat up straight abruptly, her eyes full of surprise, looking straight at Xiao who stood beside her with an innocent look on his face. The next second, she stood up hastily, but as soon as she stood up, her body collapsed. Xiao was quick to act and hugged her immediately. What's wrong? Xiao hugged her and asked with concern. My legs are numb. Chapter 16 Foreign languages are good, but you have to learn them. At this moment, Qin Rushuan threw herself into someone's arms. Time seemed to have stopped for a second at this moment. Their whole atmosphere became silent, with only the sound of each other's breathing, trying to break this awkward silence. Plop. Plop. The mature female professor's heart began to beat faster and faster, as if she wanted to break the shackles that had imprisoned her for 33 years. At the same time, all her rationality disappeared at this moment, leaving only the shame that kept gushing out from the depths of her heart. In fact, Qin Rushuan really wanted to push him away, but her body did not allow her to do so. Not only were her legs numb, but all her strength had been drained from her whole body. Slowly, a delicate blush climbed up the neck and quickly occupied the entire face, which was slightly hot. Rushuan. Why is your face red? Xiao looked at the mature female professor in his arms and asked in a mean way. Close. Shut up. If you don't speak, no one will think you are dumb. I was already feeling a little ashamed, and when I heard this little man deliberately teasing me, I felt ashamed and angry all of a sudden. I bit my lips tightly. I tried to use the pain to awaken my reason and strength, but it didn't work at all. I was still limp and powerless. The key point is that my legs are no longer numb, but as long as I move a little, I feel like I'd rather die than live. Yoha! How dare you be so mean to me? You usually yell like this, do you really think you're the leader? Xiao raised his eyebrows slightly, looked at the voluptuous mature woman in his arms, and said mischievously, I'm letting go, huh? Don't. Qin Rushuan suddenly became anxious and subconsciously hugged his waist. But I soon realized that I was lying. I looked up at this mean little husband and he was looking at me with a sly smile on his face. You wanted to shout. I didn't force you to do it. Qin Rushuan bit her lips hard, her blushing face revealed a hint of girlish shyness, mixed with a bit of mature woman's charm, but overall she was cold. She muttered, Xiao. I'm very happy that you could catch me while my legs were numb, but I don't like the tone and content of your words just now. After that, her legs were no longer numb and her strength had returned. Qin Rushuan suddenly broke free from his embrace and pushed him away forcefully. Go home. After saying this, he left without looking back. Watching her gradually leaving back, Xiao felt deeply moved. On the one hand, he personally felt the broad-mindedness of the mature female professor. She was just as open-minded as he had imagined. It was a pity that he didn't dare to touch her butt. Secondly, this woman was quite cute. On their way back, the two remained silent and did not speak until they got home. Qin Rushuan rushed directly into the bedroom, and when she came out again, her hair was wet, obviously she had just taken a shower. Are you going to work tomorrow? The mature female professor returned to her old self, speaking coldly and without a trace of emotion. Of course. I just took one day off. Xu Yu answered casually while playing with his mobile phone while sitting on the sofa. Since you work in the library, use your advantage and review well. Qin Rushuang said seriously, I can give you a back door, but the prerequisite is that your grades must pass the line. In addition, I will give you a set of postgraduate entrance examination papers to do tomorrow night. An exam? Xu Yu was completely confused. It had been many years since he had taken an exam. Any questions? If there is no exam, how can I know your level? Qin Rushuan rolled her eyes and said calmly, how can I give you extra lessons in the future? Return. Do you need to take extra classes? Xu Yu shrank his head and asked in a low voice, which ones are they? Ideological and political theory, English, quantum mechanics, general physics, and advanced mathematics. Qin Rushuan said, it depends on your grades. If your grades are not good, you have to make up for all of them. Well. Xu Yu pondered for a moment, then said seriously, let me learn English first. Foreign languages are good, I have to learn them. We'll talk about it tomorrow night. Go to bed early. Qin Rushuan returned to her bedroom and slammed the door shut, which startled Xu Yu. Is menopause coming early? Xu Yu sat on the sofa and snorted for a moment, then his thoughts returned to the postgraduate entrance examination. The next morning, Qin Rushuan dropped her young husband off at the bus stop and drove her Porsche to school. But Xu Yu didn't have any objection. He walked slowly towards the school. When he arrived at the library of Fudan University, he punched in and dialed Jia Jingjing's cell phone number in the office. Xiao Jia. Let me ask. Were the questions difficult when you took the postgraduate entrance examination? Xu Yu asked. Graduate school entrance exam. Who still takes the postgraduate entrance exam these days? Jia Jingjing said proudly on the phone, I was recommended. You are so. This child cannot be kept. Xu Yu was so angry that his nose almost crooked, and said angrily, don't talk nonsense. Hurry up and ask the students around you whether the physics postgraduate entrance examination questions last year were difficult. Oh. But, Brother Xu, why are you asking this? Jia Jingjing asked curiously. I'm taking the postgraduate entrance exam. Xu Yu answered confidently. Har 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 har. Suddenly, Jia Jingjing burst into laughter over the phone. Brother Xu, stop making trouble. You even got admitted to graduate school. Last time I baked sweet potatoes, they weren't even cooked. Jia Jingjing said breathlessly, which shows how much of a funny impact Xu Yu's idea of taking the graduate school entrance exam had on him. Laugh. After hanging up the phone, I told my wife that Jia Jingjing's graduation was postponed. Xu Yu was worried in his heart, but Jia Jingjing smiled and answered seriously, but as long as you review the subject in the right way, there will be no problem. The overall pass rate is about 20 to 30%. A bit cocky. But then again, Xiao Jia does have the ability to show off, otherwise how could he have become my wife's student? Do me a favor. Find me a set of books for the postgraduate entrance examination. Remember to choose those from the Department of Physics. Xu Yu reminded. Are you really going to take the exam? Jia Jingjing asked cautiously. No matter if I pass in the end, it will be a perfect end to my study experience. Besides, the registration fee is not expensive. Xu Yu muttered. So that's how it is. Okay. I'll help you get the book, but there's a condition. Jia Jingjing said seriously on the phone, I'll treat you to a barbecue on Saturday night. Yo tilde. Rolex. When Song Xiong came to work, he saw the Rolex on Xu Yu's wrist at first sight, and then observed it carefully for a long time. He was originally smiling, but suddenly his whole body froze, and he looked up at him in horror. Is this a real piece of cake? Song Xiong pursed his lips, approached Xu Yu, and asked cautiously, did you sell your butt yesterday? Chapter 17. Be serious. This is a test. Xu Yu took a day off yesterday, and today he wore a Rolex watch, and it was a real one. This made Song Xiong doubt his motive for taking leave yesterday. The key point was that Xu Yu once said this. If his butt was valuable, he would sell it without hesitation. If I had sold my butt yesterday, I would be in the hospital today. Xu Yu rolled his eyes and said unhappily. That's true. Then where did this Rolex come from? Song Xiong asked curiously. Xu Yu pursed his lips, with a hint of hesitation between his brows. Seeing his hesitation, Song Xiong had a sense of foreboding, and said cautiously, if you're not selling your ass, then you're selling your body. You still couldn't resist the temptation of a rich woman after all. That's about it. But he was not tempted by the rich woman, but his father-in-law and mother-in-law used money to break his spirit. Xu Yu sighed and replied bitterly, Brother Song, let's be realistic. What do you think people live for? Isn't it for money? If you are given two roads, one is full of thorns and you can't see the road ahead, and the other is a road full of gold, you choose. You touch your conscience and choose, which one do you choose? The first one. Song Xiong stiffened his neck and answered seriously, it must be the first one. Heaven moves vigorously, and a gentleman should constantly strive to improve himself. Oh shit. You idiot, who dreams of being kept by a rich woman every day. Now that I am on the right track, you turn against me? Okay. Since you said that heaven moves with vigor, and a gentleman should constantly strive for self-improvement, then let me ask you, who fantasize about being kept by a rich woman every day? Who is it? Me? Or you? Xu Yu looked at him seriously and asked in all seriousness, answer me. Me or you? Answer me. Look in my eyes, tell me why baby why? Xu Yu's sharp gaze shone on Song Xiong, and those words were like bullets, shooting into the depths of his heart. This. Song Xiong was so embarrassed that he stammered, I saw you driving a Land Rover. I was so anxious. I am afraid that my brother will suffer, and I am also afraid that my brother will drive a Land Rover. Xu Yu understood Song Xiong's mentality. He would feel the same way if he were in his place. He gently patted his shoulder and said with a smile, but, given our relationship, I will definitely not forget you. Song Xiong shrank his head and said with a little worry, is my condition okay? I heard that rich women all use steel wool. I'm afraid I can't stand it. What are you talking about? I said if you have financial difficulties, you can come to me. Xu Yu rolled his eyes and said helplessly, what do you think? Oh. Speak clearly. Song Xiong breathed a sigh of relief, and then asked curiously, by the way, how did you get in touch with the rich woman? Actually, not a rich woman. Xu Yu curled his lips and replied leisurely, the matter here is quite complicated and cannot be explained in a few words. Anyway, I will tell you this. I am still the same person as before, but I have become richer. Song Xiong nodded with an expression that said, I understand you. No matter how Xu Yu explained, he had already been labeled as Cao Dahua, the tiger of the serious crime unit. Okay. I'll be honest. Xu Yu answered seriously, my girlfriend's father gave it to me. Girlfriend? Song Xiong looked at him in astonishment and asked in confusion, when did you have a girlfriend? We just talked about it yesterday. Xu Yu explained. Song Xiong was so confused that he asked hesitantly, you just started dating yesterday. Her father gave you a Rolex. Is your girlfriend, is she missing some limbs? Or is she mentally handicapped? Comrade. Your thoughts are dangerous. If my wife hears this, you'll lose your job. Xu Yu rolled his eyes and said earnestly, my girlfriend is 1.7 meters tall, with big breasts, a perky butt, and long legs. She is also very beautiful, 10,000 times prettier than those celebrities. In addition, she is a high-level intellectual. However, Song Xiong didn't believe it at all. But they didn't dwell on it anymore. Of course, it didn't affect the bond between Xu Yu and Song Xiong. After all, sometimes men are purer than women. So many. Xu Yu got the review materials, a whole plastic bag of books. I helped you pick these, otherwise there would be more than this. Zhou Jingjing shrugged and said softly. All right. I'll treat you Saturday night and invite them along. Xu Yu pursed his lips, carrying a plastic bag of postgraduate entrance examination books and returned to the library. Arriving at the office, Xu Yu sat at his seat, took out a physics review book and flipped through it casually. It didn't seem very difficult, as it was all very basic content, but the more basic the stuff was, the more problems he had. If Xu Yu were asked to calculate a symmetric orbital wave function and an antisymmetric spin wave function, it would be too easy for him, but if he were asked to solve a college student's exam question, he might make mistakes. But, after all, that knowledge still exists in memory, it just needs to be reactivated. I was flipping through books silently, waiting for the end of get off work. Before I knew it, the time had come. Then I left the library of Fudan University carrying a bag of books. After standing at the bus stop for a while, he saw a Porsche coming towards him and then stopped steadily in front of him. Xiao Yu first opened the back door, put the bag of books in, and then sat in the passenger seat. "What's in the bag?" Qin Rushuang asked. "Books. Review materials for the postgraduate entrance examination." Xiao Yu looked at her and said with a smile, "Are you satisfied with my eagerness to improve, Rushuang?" Snort. Qin Rushuang snorted coldly and drove on. When the two returned home, Xiao Yu cooked 3 simple dishes himself. After eating, he began the tense exam. At this moment in the study room, Xiao Yu was sitting in the seat of the mature female professor, waiting for the arrival of his wife and invigilator. Suddenly, the door of the study room was opened, and Qin Rushuang walked towards him slowly with a stack of papers. Ouch! He actually wore gold-rimmed glasses. She wore a black OL professional uniform and gold-rimmed glasses, exuding an intellectual and mature temperament. First, physics, 1.5 hours, then math, 1.5 hours, then English, 1 hour, and finally, political theory, 1 hour. Qin Rushuang said expressionlessly, "I have selected the questions. Each subject is 100 points. 80 is a pass, 95 is an excellent." "Oh. Rushuang, you look pretty good wearing glasses," Xiao Yu said with a smile. Qin Rushuang was stunned for a moment, then glared at him fiercely, "Be serious. This is a test. And call me teacher." Chapter 18, Just a Little Bitterness. Teacher plays. "I didn't expect you to be such a Qin Rushuang." In order to cooperate with the mature female professor's performance, Xiao Yu hurriedly corrected his attitude, raised his hand and asked seriously, "Report teacher, I want to go to the toilet. There are still 3 minutes left before the exam, go quickly and come back soon." Qin Rushuang said calmly. Watching him walk away happily, Qin Rushuang couldn't help rolling her eyes, and began to worry secretly in her heart. "I don't know how many points he can get, I hope it's not too bad, otherwise it will be really difficult to deal with. After all, if he doesn't pass the score line, it will be difficult to get in through the back door." Xiao Yu came back after a while, and there was still 1 minute left before their wife's test. "Report to the teacher. Can I flip through the book?" Xiao Yu raised his hand and asked seriously. Qin Rushuang looked at him and replied leisurely, "It's up to you. As long as you can find it, you are capable. But I have to remind you. The question is a bit difficult and the calculation is quite large. If you look through the book, you will waste a lot of time." Xiao Yu nodded, and didn't say much. 1 minute passed quickly. Qin Rushuang took out the physics paper she had prepared in advance, handed it to her husband, and said, "Just do the questions after you get it." When Xiao Yu got the so-called test paper, he took a quick look at it and instantly felt the malice from his wife. According to Judge Jing, the physics test is the easiest of all the test subjects. It is just a combination of general physics and quantum mechanics. As a result, Qin Rushuang's selected questions are electrodynamics and quantum mechanics. Isn't that a bit too much? Xiao Yu turned to look at his mature wife who was invigilating the exam and said unhappily, "You did it on purpose, didn't you?" Qin Rushuang raised her eyebrows slightly and said lightly, "During the exam, you are not allowed to whisper to each other or talk to the invigilator, otherwise I will give you 0 points. I will warn you this time, but next time, I will not show mercy. It's over. She is into the role." Xiao Yu pursed his lips, picked up the black pen reluctantly, and started doing the questions on the test paper. The first is an electrodynamics problem, about the radiation of electromagnetic waves. For 2 electric dipole oscillators with the same frequency omega, there is a phase difference of pi2, the amplitude of the 2 dipoles is p0, but the vectors are at an angle of 0 to each other so that p1 is along the x-axis and p2 is in the xy plane, as shown in the figure. For the oscillator P at the origin, the magnetic field in its radiation range is B equals 140 C31 R E IKR PXRR. What is the total average radiation intensity? At this time, Xiao Yu sat there blankly, looking at the question which was a king bomb from the beginning. His mind was dizzy for a moment. In fact, this question was not very difficult. It was nothing more than substituting the electric dipole moment of the entire system into the formula according to the meaning of the question, and then the average radiation intensity could be obtained. But here's the thing. How to express electric dipole moment? This cannot be blamed on Xiao Yu's poor memory, because he never needs to deal with these contents, and he has no access to these contents at all. All he has to do is to formulate a direction and then take action on the most critical and complex issues. Well, just turn the pages of a book. What else can you do? Xu Yu began to look through the information brought by Zhe Jingjing, while Qin Rushuang, who was sitting next to him, looked at the scene with a hint of solemnity in her eyes. It's over. He flipped through their book for the first question, so don't even think about the rest. While their mature female professor was daydreaming, Xu Yu had already found the mathematical expression for the electric dipole moment. Call. Finally found it. Xu Yu breathed a sigh of relief and was about to pick up his pen to solve the problem when he heard her voice beside him. It's been 10 minutes. You must manage your exam time well. Qin Rushuang reminded coldly. Cut. Are you teaching me how to do things? Thank you for the reminder, teacher. He was timid in his heart but honest in his words. As soon as the words fell, Xu Yu swished, very quickly. He started solving the problem below, and this sudden situation made Qin Rushuang unable to react for a while. When she came to her senses, Xu Yu had already solved the problem about electromagnetic wave radiation. The total average radiation intensity is I equals omega caret for 60 C caret 3 P 0 caret 2. Etc. Is this solved? Qin Rushuang hurriedly took out the answer and compared the two, and found that there was no problem. The only flaw was that Xu Yu's calculation process was a bit brief, not so rigorous and detailed. But no matter what, Qin Rushuang still felt unbelievable. He was still flipping through the book, but the next second, he had solved the radiation problem. It took him 10 minutes to turn the pages of the book. Did the calculation process take 1 minute? It seemed like only 30 seconds. Thinking of this, Qin Rushuang's eyes revealed an unspeakable emotion. She didn't expect that her husband, who was 9 years younger than her, was so talented in mathematics. At the same time, Xu Yu is solving the second problem. It is still a difficult problem in electrodynamics, about the direction of interaction between electromagnetic fields and media, specifically, calculating the response of electrons to linearly polarized plane waves in the classical dispersion theory of light propagation in media. It's not difficult, just a little harder than 1 + 1 = something. Xu Yu did not turn the pages of the book. Instead, he calculated the polarization vector of an atom based on the electron motion equation. Then, step by step, he obtained the polarization intensity, electric displacement vector, and electric constant of the medium. Finally, he performed a series of derivations and worked out whether this problem violated the theory of relativity. Qin Rushuang sat quietly beside him, watching her young husband defeat the questions she had carefully prepared one by one in a crushing manner. She did not feel a trace of melancholy in her heart, but instead felt an extreme desire and a little worry. If the professors of the Department of Mathematics and Physics knew about his talent, they would definitely flock to him, and the first one to rush in would definitely be Jiang Gru. Fortunately, I am prettier than her, much prettier. But, although she seemed calm and composed, he was actually a little exhausted. He hadn't used his brain so intensively in a long time, and suddenly this happened. Every organ in his body was sounding the alarm. Finally, with Xu Yu's efforts, he finished the physics paper in just 1 hour instead of an hour and a half. As for whether it was correct, the expression of Qin Rushuang beside him had already given the answer. Not bad. It was completed in an hour, and everything was done correctly. Qin Rushuang pursed her lips and said leisurely. Xu Yu shrugged, then stood up suddenly, and then felt dizzy. Fortunately, he grabbed the edge of the table and did not collapse. This unexpected situation made Qin Rushuang nervous. She hurriedly supported him and asked anxiously, Are you okay? No problem. It's just a little bit of wind and frost. Xu Yu gently pushed her away and walked towards the door. However, as soon as he walked out of the study, he heard him retching a few times outside, which made Qin Rushuang inside speechless. Man. Always like to show off. Chapter 19, titled During the Exam. It's not that Xu Yu is weak, but when he uses his brain intensively, he consumes a lot of energy and oxygen, which need blood flowing through the brain to provide. Using the brain intensively will cause too much blood to accumulate in brain cells, causing dizziness and even vomiting. This is Xu Yu's situation. He hasn't performed such high-intensity calculations for a long time. After traveling through time, he has been living a life of eating and waiting for death. Suddenly, Qin Rushuang wants to test him. He wanted to show off in front of her, but he didn't expect to end up shitting a big pile of shit. Ouch. I've never been this vulnerable before. After Xiao dry heaved a few times, he felt much better. He propped himself up against the wall with one hand and said to himself bitterly, I used to be able to stay awake for 2 days and 2 nights without any problem, but now I feel a little dizzy when I'm doing the postgraduate entrance examination papers. It turns out that the brain will rust easily if it's not used for a long time. As soon as the words fell, Qin Rushuan came out of the study, looked at his haggard face, and asked with concern, Are you okay? Do you want me to take you to the hospital? Hospital? What hospital? Xiao changed his previous look and said with disdain, Rushuan, I tell you, I can do 50 physics papers like this in one night. There is no other way. I am young, my physical fitness is good, and I am durable. It starts again. Will you die if you don't stick up for yourself? Qin Rushuan rolled her eyes and said calmly, Don't give me that. I heard you retching outside the study. It's obvious that you've overused your brain, which has caused too much blood to accumulate in your brain cells. That's all for today, but I roughly know your level. Don't. At least let me pass the math test. After finally showing off in front of his wife, Xiao didn't want to lose the opportunity in vain, and said firmly, The time is not 1.5 hours, too much. There are too many doubts about me, take away 1 hour. I can finish it in half an hour, and I can get all the answers right, and only 1 point will be deducted. All their housework at home, Xiao, will take care of it all by myself. Just so confident. Xiao straightened his chest, his brows full of desire to fight. You'll have a half-hour break, then we'll have a math test. Facing her complacent husband, Qin Rushuan silently accepted the challenge from him. However, the math problems she had selected during the day were no longer suitable to appear in front of her husband. She needed to give him a little bit of Professor Qin shock. Take a good rest in the living room. I'll be busy with work. After saying that, he walked into the study and gently locked the door. Xiao was still unaware of the sinister intentions of the mature female professor and really thought that she was busy with her own work. He slowly walked to the sofa and then collapsed on it. Half an hour passed quickly. Xiao returned to the study again. After resting and replenishing sugar, he had recovered all his energy. In his own words, he is super powerful now. Are you ready? Qin Rushuan asked calmly. Please remove the word mar. Xiao curled his lips and said proudly, All that's left is to get ready. Qin Rushuan didn't say anything, but silently handed him the test paper, then sat by the side to watch his reaction. When the young husband confidently took the test paper and simply glanced at it, his expression was frozen there in an instant, and his expression was constantly twisting at a speed visible to the naked eye. No. This. Xiao turned his head and stared at his mature wife, his eyes full of fear and bewilderment, even a little unprepared, and asked cautiously, Rushuan, did you take the wrong paper? Just out of the oven. I wrote it myself. Qin Rushuan said calmly, Do it, for half an hour. You. Hearing the mature female professor's answer, Xiao's scalp went numb and his head was buzzing. Do you have any opinions? Any emotions? Qin Rushuan raised her chin slightly, her charming and cold face revealing a bit of the aura of the head of the family, and said calmly, In front of me, you are not allowed to have any opinions or emotions. Just a reminder, 2 minutes have passed. Snort. Xiao snorted coldly, picked up the pen and took off the cap, muttering to himself leisurely, I originally planned to get along with you as an ordinary person, but I didn't expect that I would be backstabbed. I won't pretend anymore, I am a super genius, I'm going to show my cards. After that, pick up your pen and write quickly. Compared to his calmness when doing the physics paper before, Xiao was now focused. He looked meticulous and put his whole body and soul into this paper. In fact, there was only one question on the paper, but this question was a pure math problem. It was obvious that Qin Rushuan was doing something bad. She wanted her young husband to take care of all their housework in the future. However, Xiao will not give up easily. Even though he may not be able to prove this math problem in half an hour, he still wants to challenge his limits. At the same time, Qin Rushuan, who was sitting next to her, had a slightly dazed look in her eyes. Although she knew that her young husband could not accomplish it, her spirit of challenging herself still moved her. Especially, his serious look was very charming. This is a problem about integral geometry. In r to the power of n, We use the chord power integral of convex bodies and their inequalities to obtain the random chord lengths of upsilon, nu, lambda, and the inequalities between the moments of kappa. Then, based on the relationship between the chord power integral of convex bodies and the inclusion function, we get a new expression. It's not that difficult. As long as we establish the equivalent relationship between the chord covariance of a convex body and the random chord length moment, the rest of the problems will be easily solved. Time passed by second, and Xiao Xu was seen writing the proof process on the paper. Maybe the time was too tight. Sweat began to seep out of his forehead, and when Qin Rushuan saw it, he took out a few tissues from the table and gently wiped the sweat off his forehead. Well, so considerate. Xiao Xu turned his head and asked with a smile. Qin Rushuan rolled her eyes, then turned her face to the side and said unhappily, "Don't get me wrong. I don't want to sweat on the paper." After the words fell, I glanced at him from the corner of my eye and found that he was still smiling at me with a wicked look on his face. I got a little angry. I kicked him softly and said angrily, "Hurry up and answer the questions. There are only 10 minutes left. Why are you blushing?" Xiao Xu was not in a hurry. He looked at the mature female professor who didn't dare to turn her head to look at him and asked curiously. In a place where Xiao Xu couldn't see, Qin Rushuan pinched her thigh hard, trying to use the pain to dispel the blush on her face. This trick really worked. She suddenly raised her head, stared at him, and said coldly, "I blush. Where is it red? Look carefully. Look, it's urgent again. I'm talking to Rushuan." Before Xiao Xu could finish his words, Qin Rushuan said angrily, "What Rushuan? How many times have I told you to call your position during the exam? Okay? Qin plant. Teacher. Teacher. Teacher Qin." Chapter 20. Who is this person? Qin Rushuan, who has always been steady, was broken down for the first time, and the one who broke down her defenses was none other than her husband, who was 9 years younger than her. At this moment, the mature female professor's face flushed, and her eyes revealed a hint of unspeakable anger, but because of this, different from her usual coldness, she now looked more like a woman. 8 minutes left. You said it yourself. If you can't do it, you will take care of all the housework from now on. Qin Rushuan warned coldly. Xiao Xu shrugged and answered seriously, "Even if I can do it, I won't finish it within the stipulated time. After all, you are my wife. Although there is no love between us, no matter what, I will take good care of you." Hearing her husband's words that sounded like a confession, Qin Rushuan was at a loss for a moment. She instinctively wanted to retreat, but she finally held back. Looking at the little man sitting next to her, she frowned slightly and said calmly, "Do you think that if you say these words, I will be magnanimous to you? Will I give you extra time for the exam?" As soon as the voice fell, he raised his eyebrows slightly, pointed at the manuscript paper, and said seriously, "Right. Ouch. Right, I can't even say anything sweet to you." Xiao Xu curled his lips. Compared to the first day of getting the marriage certificate, he was a little bolder now. In fact, this was also his strategy. If he wanted to conquer a mature woman like Qin Rushuan, just relying on being respectful to her, that would undoubtedly be courting death. Only by constantly teasing the mature professor's heart would there be a possibility of sleeping with her. Snort. You call that love talk? Is this how you say sweet words? Qin Rushuan was laughing in her heart. But then again, she originally thought that they would be respectful to each other, but she didn't expect it to be like this. This little husband is indeed a little naughty. But when she is with him, she feels quite relaxed and comfortable. Back to the math problem, Xiao Xu calmed himself down and began to conduct a series of verifications on the theorems he had obtained. This was a very large and complicated task, and 8 minutes was far from enough. It would take at least half an hour. Of course, he had already automatically admitted defeat in the bet with Qin Rushuan. Swish swish. Xiao Xu quickly wrote down the proof process on the paper, while his energy and strength were slowly being consumed. Originally Qin Rushuan was quite far away from him, but now she was next to him, watching him writing and drawing on the manuscript paper. She couldn't even understand some of the contents. Time is passing. In the blink of an eye, half an hour had passed. Qin Rushuan didn't let him stop, but asked him to continue solving the math problem. Gradually, Xiao Xu has already had some idea about this problem, but his energy has been almost exhausted. However, he still continues to prove it with willpower. Call. He took a long breath and slowly put down his pen. Turning his head to look at his mature wife who was staring at him, Xiao said softly, Teacher Qin, it's done. Qin Rushuan responded casually, picked up the manuscript papers, flipped through them briefly, and commented, the handwriting is a bit sloppy. Practice writing more starting tomorrow. What are you looking at? The content, look at the content, am I right? Xiao said unhappily. Qin Rushuan rolled his eyes, slapped his manuscripts on the table, and replied indifferently, I can't understand it, what's so good about it? No. You don't understand anything, and you're still asking questions. Xiao widened his eyes and looked at her in disbelief, his face full of confusion and astonishment. How could I know you would? Tomorrow I will ask Professor Jiang Ru from the Department of Mathematics to take a look. I will tell you then. Qin Rushuan muttered. Ouch. Listen to her confident tone. Xiao was feeling very angry, but he couldn't do anything about her, because she was his wife after all. That's all for today. We will continue the exam tomorrow night. Qin Rushuan curled her lips and said leisurely, go to bed early. After that, she got up and left, leaving Xiao sitting there ready to steal the English test paper. Result. Just after receiving the English test paper, Qin Rushuan made a surprise counterattack. I knew it. You thought I was really gone. Qin Rushuan came back with a dark face, walked to Xiao, picked up a steel ruler on the table, and said fiercely, put your hand out. What? What's the meaning? Xiao was confused and didn't understand what she meant. Stretch out. Qin Rushuan was too lazy to explain to him and continued speaking fiercely. With a bit of confusion, doubt and curiosity, Xiao obediently stretched out his hand. Unexpectedly, the next second, the steel ruler in the mature female professor's hand hit his palm hard, and the sound was crisp and loud. That's right. It's just fishing enforcement. Looking at his horrified eyes, Qin Rushuan raised her head slightly, took the remaining 2 papers, and left without looking back. Hello. I want to consult about divorce. How should the property and children be divided? Why divorce? Family leopard coat. Xiao was making a phone call inside, and Qin Rushuan heard it all at the door. In fact, she didn't leave at all. She secretly peeked inside, and then couldn't help rolling her eyes. Fool. The phone is held upside down. The next morning, after sending her lazy and cunning husband to the station 100 meters away from the school, Qin Rushuan drove her Porsche into the school herself. I returned to my office, took out the manuscript papers from last night from my bag, thought for a while, then picked up the landline phone on my desk and it was connected in a short while. Sister Jiang. Can you come over to my place? I'm in the office, okay, I'll wait for you. After hanging up the phone, in less than a few minutes, Jiang Ru pushed open her best sister's office door. What's wrong? It seems quite urgent. Jiang Ru asked with a puzzled look on her face. Sister Jiang. Take a look at this math problem. Qin Rushuan asked seriously, if I give it to you, how long will it take you to solve it? Well. Random chord length moment inequality and distribution function. Jiang Ru sat opposite, looking at the math problem in her hand, and answered, it's not difficult to say, but it's not easy at all to say it's easy. If it were me, it would take about half a day. Qin Rushuan hesitated for a moment, and confirmed again and again that Jiang Ru was not as pretty as herself, before she said softly, Sister Jiang, if I say that someone can solve it in an hour, do you believe it? An hour? How is that possible? Jiang Ru shook her head repeatedly and said seriously, the amount of calculation is still a bit terrifying. But it happened. Qin Rushuan took out Xiao's manuscript paper, handed it to her good sister, and said, I saw him finish it within an hour. Jiang Ru couldn't help but be stunned for a moment. She reached out to take the manuscript handed to her, and then looked at it carefully. After a while, Jiang Ru stood up suddenly, grabbed the edge of the table with both hands, and asked hysterically, Shuang. Who is this person? Chapter 21. His girlfriend is as old as his mom. If it was any other student, Qin Rushuan might have sent him away, but this person was Xiao, her legal husband. It was unreasonable and emotional to give him away. Even if she couldn't teach him, she couldn't let others teach him. Qin Rushuan pursed her lips, looked at her anxious friend, and replied helplessly, Jiang Ru, this person is my key student, I'm sorry I can't give it to you. No, no, no. Xuan, for the sake of our sisterhood, please be generous and give it to me. Jiang Ru hurried to Qin Rushuan's side, grabbed her little hand and shook it, pleading pitifully, I really need a student like this, Xuan, give it to me, okay. How to let? He is my husband. Faced with her good sister's begging, Qin Rushuan was a little overwhelmed for a moment, and murmured, Sister Jiang, this person really can't give in, and besides, you haven't told me whether his proof process is correct. Is that even a question? It must be extremely correct. Jiang Ru picked up Xu Yu's manuscript and said seriously, the idea is very clear, and the proof process is also very simple. His level is far above mine. The key is that he is still a student. It is hard to imagine how high his future achievements will be. Listening to her bestie's words of praise for Xu Yu, Qin Rushuan's heart was slightly rippled. She had heard countless words of praise since she was a child, and her heart was calm, but why did she feel a little happy when she heard others praising him? Xuan? How did you find him? Jiang Ru asked curiously. That's how I found out. Qin Rushuan said calmly, but there are still some flaws. The simpler it is, the less I know how to do it. The more difficult it is, the better I know how to do it. Normal. When one's abilities reach a certain level, one will indeed forget some very basic things. For example, if I were asked to do a math test for the college entrance examination, I might not be as good as those top students. Jiang Ru said this, glanced at her good sister in front of her, and said earnestly, Xuan. He will only waste his talent with you, why not give it to me? Qin Rushuan rolled her eyes at him and said softly, although he has a strong talent for mathematics, his talent for physics is not weak either, so. Sister Jiang, I can only say sorry to you. What a pity. Jiang Ru sighed deeply, her brows filled with melancholy and bitterness. She had finally met a math genius, but he was snatched away by Qin Rushuan, who was engaged in physics research. That's right. What project is he working on now? Jiang Ru asked curiously. Not in any project. Qin Rushuan hesitated for a moment and replied softly, to be precise, he is preparing for the postgraduate entrance examination. Examination, postgraduate entrance examination. Jiang Ru was stunned. She flipped through the manuscript in her hand and said in horror, with this level, you were not recommended by the school to be a graduate student. As soon as the words fell, suddenly it dawned on me. Looking straight at her good sister in front of her, Jiang Ru said unhappily, Frost Xuan, you are so cunning. You want to secretly take this genius for yourself. You deliberately didn't report it, right? What's the sneaky thing, his mine? Qin Rushuan bit her lip gently and explained slowly, Sister Jiang, the situation here is a little complicated, not what you think, and I can't explain it clearly in a few words. Anyway, this is the situation, let's move on from this topic. Snort. Jiang Ru rolled her eyes and said angrily, what do you mean by good sisters? I didn't expect you to trick me. Qin Rushuan didn't respond and just sat there quietly, without a trace of emotion on her face. Never mind. That's all we can do. Jiang Ru shrugged, looked at her best friend and asked, didn't you go on a blind date a few days ago? How did it go? Get married. He became my husband. Qin Rushuan was silent for a long time before she spoke, not bad. Improvise. What do you mean by make do? Are you in love or are they just accustomed to each other? Jiang Ru asked again. Just make do. Qin Rushuan spoke expressionlessly. Wrong. No. Jiang Ru frowned, carefully observing Qin Rushuan's expression, and said thoughtfully, I feel that things are not that simple, there must be follow-up developments. Tell me. Are you in love already? Love. Not only did we fall in love, we also got married in a flash. Qin Rushuan said calmly, and he is 9 years younger than me. Are you satisfied? However, faced with her best sister's truthful words, Jiang Ru didn't believe a word of it. Even if you are making it up, can you put some thought into it? Jiang Ru rolled her eyes at her and continued, I know it's nonsense the moment I hear it. What flash marriage? What's 9 years younger than you? How is that possible? Speaking of which, Jiang Ru sighed again and said to herself sadly, it feels like we're both going to end up alone for the rest of our lives. At this time, Qin Rushuan raised her head and looked at the lonely Jiang Ru. A feeling of shame gushed out from the bottom of her heart and went straight through her whole body. Sister Jiang. Sorry. I really got married. My husband is very handsome and talented, and he is 9 years younger than me. You still understand, right? Qin Rushuan, let us go out to eat together at noon. Qin Rushuan, you go first, I will come find you and tell me the address and store name. Xu Yu was tidying up the bookshelf when he suddenly received a message from his mature wife. Although he was a little confused, he still put down what he was doing and planned to leave early to find a place to eat. Xiao Xu. Leaving early again. Zhang Qian, the person in charge of the library, saw Xu Yu acting suspiciously and said unhappily, it's still half an hour before we get off work. Sister Zhang. I really have something to do. I won't tell you for now. I'll bring you some milk tea when I come back. Seeing Xu Yu happily running away again, Zhang Qian's brows were full of helplessness. At this time, Song Xiong came to Zhang Qian's side and said seriously, Sister Zhang, Xiao Xu is not the same Xiao Xu as before. He is in a relationship now, and the other person is the same age as his mother. What? His girlfriend is the same age as his mother? Zhang Qian asked with eyes wide open and a look of horror on her face. Guess. But I'm already 90% sure. Don't you think he looks a little haggard today? Song Xiong said seriously. Although Xu Yu had explained it, he didn't explain it clearly, leaving Song Xiong with a lot of room for imagination. Hiss. Now that you mention it, you look a little haggard. Xu Yu is usually very lazy, but today he has a very decadent temperament, as if he did not get enough rest last night. Xiao Song. You hold on here for now. I'll catch up and check out the situation. Seeing that Xu Yu was on a path of no return in life, Zhang Qian, as the big sister, decided to pull him out of the quagmire. Chapter 22. Isn't he this director Qin? After Xu Yu slipped out of the library, he slowly walked towards the nearby shopping mall. When he arrived at the mall, he chose a restaurant with good online ratings, and then sat in a corner, waiting for his mature wife to arrive. Well, maybe there's something he wants to talk about in person. There must be a reason why she suddenly wanted to have lunch with me, otherwise, how could she, a person who is eager to make progress, waste her time on eating? At this time, Xu Yu sat alone in the corner, constantly watching Douyin videos. Maybe it was because he married Qin Rushuan, his big data used to be Odabia pulling bananas, sword forging competitions, repairing horse hooves, washing blankets, wilderness survival, etc., but now it's a dance video of a mature lady. Certainly. After watching too many videos like this, it is inevitable that you will have some thoughts. In fact, Xu Yu's hobbies used to be quite normal. He liked girls with big breasts, thick hips, thin waists, and long legs. But now, his mind is full of mature teacher play. An exquisite black OL suit, with a neat and conservative white shirt on the upper body, and a hip-wrapped black miniskirt on the lower body, paired with a pair of black stockings and black high heels, and finally gold-rimmed glasses to form the head, and if possible, hold an English book in your arms. Teacher. I want to learn English. Ahem. Xu Yu, stop it. Xu Yu hurriedly interrupted his unrealistic fantasy and pulled his thoughts back to the real world. However, the image of Qin Rushuan as a mature professor had been deeply imprinted in his brain and could not be shaken off. But then again, with Qin Rushuan's figure, appearance and temperament, she could indeed play many roles. Why aren't you here yet? Xu Yu picked up his phone and looked at it, his face full of boredom and loneliness. Just then, suddenly I received a WeChat message from Zhang Qian. Zhang Qian, Xiao Xu, what are you doing instead of going to work? Xu Yu pursed his lips, picked up his phone and quickly edited the content. Xu Yu, I'm in North Street, I have some personal matters. Zhang Qian was standing at the restaurant entrance. When she saw the message sent by Xu Yu, she suddenly felt a little uneasy. Taking a deep breath, Zhang Qian walked into the restaurant. She quickly noticed Xu Yu sitting in the corner and walked towards him quickly. Xiao Xu. Xu Yu, who was in a daze, heard a familiar voice. When he looked up and saw Zhang Qian, he was stunned. He stood up quickly and asked tremblingly, Zhang, Sister Zhang. Why are you here? I followed you all the way here. Zhang Qian sat opposite Xu Yu, staring at him in panic, and asked seriously, Xiao Xu, are you hiding something from me? Are I? Xu Yu shrank his head and asked cautiously, what did Brother Song tell you? In fact, I don't need him to remind me. I can see the clues in you myself. Zhang Qian paused and said seriously, Xiao Xu, you are still very young. Even if you go astray, as long as you turn back, there will be no problem. Well, go astray. How did I go astray? Xu Yu asked puzzledly. Zhang Qian rolled her eyes and said unhappily, do I have to tell you straight out? Fine. Since you're playing dumb with me, I won't be polite. Xiao Xu. Are you in a relationship? Oh, yes. Xu Yu pursed his lips and asked curiously, what's wrong? Of course we can have a relationship, but you. Zhang Qian couldn't finish the words that were on the tip of her tongue, but she finally mustered up the courage and said to him, isn't it a problem that you're dating a woman who's the same age as your mother? What? I found a woman who is the same age as my mother. Xu Yu stood up suddenly and looked at her in horror. Zhang Qian was startled and hurriedly asked him to sit down, complaining, why are you yelling? Sit down quickly, this is not a very honorable thing to do. No. This. At this time, Xu Yu felt more wrong than Do Yi. He had indeed married a mature woman who was only 9 years older than him. But when it came to Zhang Qian, she was more than 20 years older than him. Zhang Qian sighed and said earnestly, Xiao Xu, I understand your desire for money. People live for money, but making money also requires formal channels. Of course, you are doing hard work, but it is not the right way after all. Listen to me, turn back and start a new life. Look at you. How haggard you look now. I look so haggard because I did 2 papers last night, not because I was serving a rich woman. What is the flower language of steel wool, forbearance and wealth? I really don't understand it at all. Sister Zhang, misunderstanding. This is a misunderstanding. Xu Yu explained eagerly, don't listen to Brother Song's nonsense. He just wants to watch the fun. I admit, my girlfriend is older than me, but how can she be the same age as my mother? You seem a little anxious. Zhang Qian frowned, and noticed a trace of panic in Xu Yu's expression, which made her more certain of her thoughts. She said, Xiao Xu, you are still young and don't understand the dangers of this society, especially these days when fraud is rampant, be careful not to be deceived into the park. Without waiting for Xu Yu to explain, Zhang Qian continued, you should have asked her to have dinner with you, right? Can I be included? I can help you test her quality. This. I have tried its quality and it is very smooth. Xu Yu was a little overwhelmed. Faced with this unexpected situation, he didn't know what to do for a moment, but an idea soon popped up in his mind, which was to send a message to the mature female professor, telling her there was a traitor and to stop the transaction. However, his idea was quickly shattered. Buzz. The phone on the table vibrated. I picked it up and saw that it was a message from Qin Rushuan. Qin Rushuan, I'm here. Xu Yu looked up towards the door and saw the mature female professor standing there looking around, and then their eyes met. Don't come. Run. Finally she came. When Qin Rushuan was halfway there, she suddenly noticed that there was someone sitting in the seat in front of her young husband. Although her back was facing away from her, she could tell it was a woman. Come. The situation is a bit complicated. Xu Yu quickly stood up and said to his professor wife. Upon hearing the news, Zhang Qian looked back and saw a mature woman with a cold temperament coming towards her, especially her eyes, which contained a kind of indifference as if it had nothing to do with her. Etc. Why do I feel like you look familiar? Zhang Qian looked at this cool mature woman carefully, and suddenly she shivered all over. Isn't this Director Qin from the physics department? Chapter 23 Xu Yu is my husband. Zhang Qian looked at Qin Rushuan who was coming towards her, and her head was buzzing for a moment. The rich woman who supported Xiao Xu, could it be? Director Qin Rushuan? How is this possible? Although Director Qin is indeed a rich woman, and the whole Fudan University knows that she is a rich woman, after all, she drives a Porsche Panamera, and it is said that it is a top-of-the-line model, which costs about 3 million yuan, but, what virtue and ability does Xiao Xu have, to let Director Qin support him? Just when Zhang Qian was doubting her life, Xu Yu had already stood up and walked to Qin Rushuan's side, carefully explaining, the situation is a bit complicated. I wanted to send you a message, but I didn't expect you to be at the door. Qin Rushuan just glanced at her young husband, then moved her eyes to the confused Zhang Qian and said, Director Zhang. Director Qin. Hello, hello. Zhang Qian stood up quickly and said with a respectful smile, I didn't expect to meet you here. Qin Rushuan is not an ordinary professor. She also holds the title of Deputy Director of the Physics Department. In addition to daily teaching and scientific research tasks, she is also responsible for the administrative work of the Physics Department. Moreover, she will soon remove the word deputy from her title, and her rank will be even higher. Qin Rushuan nodded expressionlessly and said to Xiao Xu, sit down. I'll sit next to you. Xiao Xu was stunned for a moment, with a hint of disbelief in his eyes, and blinked at her, asking her if she really wanted to do this. Are you sure you don't need to avoid it? The mature female professor ignored him and sat down opposite Zhang Qian, in the seat towards the inside. As for Xiao Xu, he could only sit next to her obediently. The scene of the two of them sitting next to each other left a huge shock to Zhang Qian's heart. This. You don't even want to pretend anymore, right? They are so close to each other in front of me. If it were late at night and everyone was asleep, wouldn't it be like they were sleeping in the same bed? Zhang Qian hurriedly calmed herself down. The first thought that came to her mind was to run, to quickly leave this embarrassing place. However, before she could open her mouth, Qin Rushuan, who was sitting opposite her, spoke first. Have you ordered the food? Then you order the dishes first, order more, for 3 people. Qin Rushuan said lightly. Director Qin, I. Seeing that Qin Rushuan wanted to keep her for dinner, Zhang Qian panicked and replied, I have something else to do. Director Qin, so. I won't have dinner. After that. He looked at Xiao Xu who was standing opposite him, hoping that he could speak up for him. Xiao Xu, who received the signal, quickly avoided her gaze, and secretly said in his heart. Don't come to see me, why should you look at me? I'm not the head of the family, she has the final say in the family, and besides, don't you want to test her quality? Director Zhang. Don't be nervous. It just so happens that I also want to know about Xiao Xu's work situation. Qin Rushuan said calmly, is he serious about his work? Is he slacking off? At this time, Xiao Xu did not dare to speak. He held his mobile phone and ordered food on the mini program. However, he believed that Sister Zhang would not say bad things about him. She would definitely say nice things about him. As for how nice they were, that was her business. Of course, he guessed that his wife would not believe it. He is doing pretty well. He is conscientious and responsible at work, and he is also very warm-hearted. He is never late or leaves early. Even if he does, he will explain the situation in advance. Zhang Qian lied with her eyes open. In fact, what she said was completely the opposite. In the entire library, he was the one who was most likely to slack off and be lazy. He was always late or leave early, and sometimes he just disappeared. Sister Zhang? Do you want to eat chopped pepper fish head? Xiao Xu asked in a low voice. Zhang Qian looked at Xiao Xu, who was a little timid, and felt like a henpecked husband. Then she nodded silently. Want to eat? Xiao Xu asked the mature wife next to him again. Qin Rushuan simply responded, and then said to Zhang Qian, I know these words are all false. He is unlikely to be such a person. Director Zhang. I'm sorry to have troubled you. No. Xiao Xu is really good. Zhang Qian said quickly, sometimes he does have some minor problems, but they are insignificant. He is essentially good and a kind person. He is just a little lazy, but it doesn't matter, being a little lazy is not bad. TSK. No wonder Sister Zhang is the person in charge of the library. Look at the level of her speech. If I were the principal, you would be the head of the logistics department. Xiao Xu felt very happy and silently ordered 2 cups of handmade lemon tea for Zhang Qian, one for now and the other in the afternoon. It's a bit lazy indeed. She glanced at him from the corner of her eye and said coldly, the representative of cunning, lazy, greedy and slippery people. How could Xiao Xu dare to say a word at this time? He just sat obediently next to the mature female professor, like a son. It's not that he couldn't get hard. After all, in order to maintain his wife's face, he could only sacrifice his husband's temper. Besides, in the future, She will have to rely on her to drive her father-in-law's Cullinan back. At the same time, Zhang Qian was even more confused. From Qin Rushuang's concern for Xiao Xu, it seemed that it had gone beyond the level of supporting someone. It seemed that there was a deeper and more intimate relationship between her and Xiao Xu. Is Director Zhang still the acting person in charge? Qin Rushuang asked suddenly, but her tone was still cold. Well, yes, or by proxy. Zhang Qian pursed her lips and replied softly, maybe the school is still testing my ability. Qin Rushuang picked up the water cup, took a sip, and said slowly, it will become official next month. That's what Director Song told me. Faced with this unexpected good news, Zhang Qian was both excited and a little confused. Normally, this kind of inside information would not be told to her easily, but Director Qin Rushuang said it out loud. Could it be because of Xiao Xu? Thinking of this, he looked at Xiao Xu opposite him, and then secretly glanced at Qin Rushuang beside him. It's definitely more than just keeping a mistress. There is definitely a relationship that is more intimate than keeping a mistress. Could it be? Could it be? Xiao Xu is Director Qin's nephew? But Zhang Qian was still a little conservative, and didn't think about it in the way of husband and wife, but just kept rubbing against the edge of relatives. That. Director Qin? What is your relationship with Xiao Xu? Zhang Qian finally couldn't help it and asked carefully. Oh. Sister Zhang is like this. Xiao Xu took over the conversation and began his trickery, saying, our relationship is a little bit complicated. How complicated is it? I can't go into too much detail. Anyway, it is very complicated. I will explain it to you slowly when I have the chance. However, at this time, the silent Qin Rushuang suddenly spoke up and said to Zhang Qian, who was full of questions. Xiao Xu? It's my husband, actually. Chapter 24, Chase. For free. Oh. It turns out that Xiao Xu is Director Qin's husband. Well. Wait a minute. Husband. Xiao Xu is Director Qin Rushuang's husband? Oh my god. This is 10,000 times more exaggerated than Director Qin keeping Xiao Xu as a mistress. Zhang Qian's eyes widened, her eyes were full of astonishment and disbelief, and she was even a little at a loss, because this information was so explosive that she began to doubt its authenticity. However, Xiao Xu was also quite surprised. He didn't expect that the mature female professor would announce his relationship with her so directly. But when he thought about it carefully, it was quite consistent with her personality. It was she who sent him a message and told him that she wanted to get a marriage certificate. This. Zhang Qian tried hard to speak, but found that she didn't know what to say, as if she had lost the ability to speak. Just at this time, the waiter brought the dishes to the table, and the next scene made Zhang Qian's scalp tingle. Want some shrimp? How about I peel it for you? Without waiting for Qin Rushuang to answer, she peeled the shrimp for her and put it in her bowl. As for the mature woman teaching her, she picked up the chopsticks and gently picked up the shrimp, slowly put it into her plump red lips, and chewed it elegantly. It's numb. It's not just my scalp that's numb. Every cell in my body is numb. Zhang Qian looked at the scene in disbelief, her worldview was gradually collapsing. You and Xiao Xu. Zhang Qian swallowed and continued to ask tremblingly, really, are you really a couple? Qin Rushuang took out a tissue, wiped the corner of her mouth, and replied calmly, he and I have already obtained a marriage certificate. From a legal perspective, we are already a legal couple. What? Have you got your marriage certificate? Zhang Qian suppressed her inner shock and tried to calm herself down, but no matter what, she still couldn't calm down. This matter. Director Zhang, please keep this secret. Qin Rushuang said seriously. Zhang Qian nodded repeatedly and replied seriously, don't worry, Director Qin. I will never let anyone else know about this. As soon as the voice fell. Looking at Xiao Xu who was sitting opposite, an indescribable and complicated emotion surged in his heart. However, no matter how he would get along with Xiao Xu in the future, first of all, he admired him very much. Xiao Xu, who seemed a little unreliable, secretly married Director Qin Rushuang. Secondly, he was really brave. He actually dared to marry Director Qin Rushuang. Qin Rushuang seemed to have a bright future, but in fact she was not well received because of her temper, her indifference, and her strictness. The students were very afraid of her, very scared of her, and very wary of her. As a result, there was a brave young man, he married Qin Rushuang. In addition, if I remember correctly, Xiao Xu is only 24 years old, right? And director Qin seems to be 33 years old. Zhang Qian quickly lowered her head, afraid that the two men would see the change in her expression. Call. Director Qin. Can I ask you a question? Zhang Qian couldn't help but ask carefully, how did you two know each other? If I remember correctly, Xiao Xu has only been working in the library for a short time. Actually, Xu Yu just opened his mouth to explain when he was suddenly interrupted by the mature female professor next to him. Online dating. Qin Rushuang replied calmly. No. Isn't this explanation too casual? If Zhang Qian could believe this answer, Xu Yu, would commit suicide by swallowing feces. Oh. So that's how it is. Zhang Qian's face was filled with sudden enlightenment. You believe it? Xu Yu was almost speechless, but he didn't dare to speak loudly. In the following time, the three of them ate lunch quietly, but during the time, Xu Yu kept picking up food for his mature wife. Of course Zhang Qian saw it all. Originally, she had a bit of stereotype about their relationship, but now it is developing in the direction of love. Director Zhang. I want to ask you a favor. Qin Rushuang suddenly put down her chopsticks and said seriously, I am considering letting my husband take the postgraduate entrance examination. He happens to work in the library, so please help me supervise him and supervise his studies. Zhang Qian was stunned for a moment, then she came to her senses and immediately agreed, don't worry, Director Qin, I will supervise his studies. Good. If he slacks off, call me and I'll take care of him when I get home. Qin Rushuang said coldly. Go home? Are you already living together? Zhang Qian was a little shocked at first, but she quickly recovered. After all, they had obtained the marriage certificate and they no longer lived together. She immediately replied, okay. After that, looking at Xu Yu meaningfully, the reason for his haggard look has been found. In addition, Director Qin Rushuang looks very good today. I'm going back. Just wait for me at the usual place, I'll take you home. After Qin Rushuang said a few words, she left the restaurant directly, leaving Xu Yu and Zhang Qian sitting there facing each other. Xu Yu and Zhang Qian looked at each other and then remained silent. Xiao Xu. Well, why don't you be the curator? Xu Yu's face was filled with embarrassment and confusion, and she said unhappily, Sister Zhang, stop making trouble, are you making fun of me? How dare I? You are Director Qin's husband. Zhang Qian smiled, then looked at him carefully, and asked with a slightly puzzled look on her face, Xiao Xu. How did you get Director Qin? Chase. Free of charge. Xu Yu shrugged and answered seriously, with love. Like? Noun or verb? Zhang Qian asked curiously. Hey. Sister Zhang, this is a bit dirty. Xu Yu rolled his eyes and said seriously, Rushuang and I are pure love. Ouch, hey. Call her Rushuang. What a disgusting name. After Qin Rushuang left, Zhang Qian's curiosity was aroused. She squinted her eyes and smiled at Xu Yu, saying, you are in your 20s, young and strong, and she is in her 30s, eager, and you two are living together. I've been through this before. It's over. Stuck in a vicious circle of self-affirmation. Continuing to explain in this situation will only make things worse. Xu Yu sighed and said bitterly, whether you believe it or not, Sister Zhang, nothing has happened between Rushuang and me. She and I. All right. I won't tell anyone else. Zhang Qian rolled her eyes and muttered to him, look at yourself, you look so haggard, and then look at Director Qin Rushuang, her face is so rosy, how do you explain it? Seeing Xu Yu speechless, Zhang Qian knew that he had given in and did not continue to force him, but that meaningful expression remained on his face from beginning to end. Xiao Xu. Go see a Chinese doctor when you have time. I feel like you're lacking in energy. Zhang Qian frowned and said with concern, your face is pale. That's because I took an exam at home last night. Xu Yu explained helplessly. Zhang Qian was completely confused and asked curiously, exam? Is this a slang between you and Director Qin? Chapter 25, Son-in-law was abused by his daughter. Xu Yu said that he looked haggard because he took an exam last night, which made Zhang Qian completely confused. She thought the so-called exam was a jargon between him and Qin Rushuang, or a secret code for something. After all, who would take an exam at home, and the other person was an adult? What's the jargon? It's a serious exam. Xu Yu knew that Zhang Qian had misunderstood again, and hurriedly explained, Ru Shuang gave me a few test papers and asked me to do them in the study room. She was by my side to supervise the exam. That's why I looked so haggard today. After hearing Xu Yu's explanation, Zhang Qian frowned and muttered to herself, I feel like it's not that simple. Did you want to go into the bedroom to sleep, but Director Qin Rushuang needed you to pass the exam before she would sleep with you? No. Although it sounds like something she would do, she and I haven't reached that point yet. Hey. Sister Zhang. Xu Yu said with a smile, can you be more healthy? It's either sleeping together or going to bed. I told you. Rushuang and I are in love. As for why I took the exam, have you forgotten that I'm going to take the postgraduate entrance exam? She wanted to see what I'm like and then give me some targeted tutoring. Yeah. Zhang Qian nodded thoughtfully and said, I feel that things are not that simple. For example, the fact that you are taking the postgraduate entrance examination looks like you are taking the exam, but in fact there is another mystery behind it. What is it? Simple thinking, calm analysis, hesitant to speak. Zhang Qian pursed her lips and asked cautiously, is Director Qin Rushuan going to have a baby? What does this have to do with the child? Xu Yu felt a little guilty and replied calmly, I just want to make progress. Zhang Qian rolled her eyes and said meaningfully, to make a person who is always late and leaves early and slacks off want to improve, the other party must have given him an offer he can't refuse. I guess. Director Qin Rushuan forced you to improve by offering you the same room or a child. Let us go. It's time to study. I won't talk nonsense with you anymore. As long as this woman's gossiping heart is ignited, she will be like Conan, always able to find clues in imperceptible places. Seeing Zhang Qian getting closer to the truth step by step, Xu Yu hurriedly escaped under the pretext of studying. Seeing him panicking, Zhang Qian smiled knowingly, stood up and prepared to go back. However, just as she walked out of the restaurant, the waiter shouted from behind. This guest. You haven't paid yet. Zhang Qian was stunned. She turned around and looked at the waiter and asked, didn't the young man who just left pay? He didn't pay, and he also took 2 bottles of Coke. The waiter answered sincerely. After Xu Yu returned to the library, he really started studying, but although he looked like he was working very hard, his brain was actually in a blank state. After a simple test last night, Xu Yu no longer has any worries about advanced mathematics and physics. Of course, he still needs to look at some basic content, and as for the so-called difficult problems, he doesn't take them seriously at all. In addition, English and politics, maybe politics needs to be strengthened. Yo. Reading. Are you really going to take the postgraduate entrance examination? Song Xiang came to Xu Yu and saw him staring blankly at a book. He was speechless for a moment and reminded him, you hold it upside down. Oh, no wonder you didn't understand. Xu Yu was not embarrassed. He turned his head and glanced at Song Xiang, and said unhappily, Brother Song, did you tell Sister Zhang that my girlfriend is the same age as my mother? Song Xiang smiled innocently, patted Xu Yu on the shoulder, and explained, you didn't explain it to me clearly, leaving me a lot of room to play freely, and this is what happened in the end. But Sister Zhang told me that your girlfriend is only a few years older than you. She has a higher education, taller stature, higher IQ, higher appearance, and higher wealth. There was a hint of apology at the beginning, but he was gritting his teeth at the end, just like a bad friend who was worried about his brother's hard life and afraid that his brother would drive a Land Rover. In fact, it was no wonder that Song Xiang was so angry, because she swore to him that they would eat, drink and have fun together for the rest of their lives, but he ended up secretly finding a young rich woman. Well, Brother Song, you only see the surface, not the deeper things. Xu Yu sighed and said bitterly, you only see that I have enough food and clothing, and I am rich, but you don't see whether I am happy deep in my heart. In fact, it is really happy to have a young rich woman. Oops. Song Xiang covered his chest with his hands and said angrily, I never thought that a guy like you, Xu Yu, with thick eyebrows and big eyes, would also betray the revolution. But the joke ends here. Song Xiang is happy for Xu Yu from the bottom of his heart for being able to achieve a class reversal. As for Xu Yu, he naturally will not abandon Song Xiang, and will definitely help him if there are any good opportunities in the future. After Song Xiang left, Xiao started to check and fill in the gaps in his weak foundation. In fact, with his current level, many things can be deduced, but it will take a little time. He only wants to achieve quick success, and the key is that he has the ability to achieve quick success. Unconsciously or not. The afternoon passed. After simply packing up my things, I prepared to punch out of get off work. It was still the same bus stop. I watched a Porsche coming towards me and stopped steadily in front of me. I opened the passenger door and sat right in. English and political science exams in the evening. How are you preparing? Qin Rushuan asked calmly while driving. It's okay. Xiao shrugged and answered casually. Soon the two returned home, had a simple meal, and began the so-called final exam. It was only 2 hours in total, and they passed in the blink of an eye, and the grades in English and politics were a mess, which made Qin Rushuan so angry that her face almost twisted. In fact, he failed the English test on purpose. After all, he had to find a suitable reason for a teacher's play, and English was the best reason. As for politics, Xiao tried hard to pass it, but failed. What's wrong? You don't look very happy. Xiao looked at his mature wife holding his 2 papers, her brows full of anger, and asked in a low voice. Qin Rushuan slammed the 2 failed papers on the table, picked up a steel ruler, and said fiercely, "My goal for you is 95 points. If you get 1 point less, I will hit you. Calculate how many times you will be hit tonight." No. If you had said that earlier, I would have gotten full marks in English. Xiao looked at his English paper with only 17 points and his political paper with 73 points, and his scalp suddenly went numb. Wait a moment. This. You didn't say you wanted to slap my palms. The key point is you didn't tell me that I must score above 95. Xiao got angry. He had been hit yesterday, and this woman really hit me. Qin Rushuan's face darkened as she said coldly, "Does this need to be explained? Isn't this as it should be? Put your hands out. I made you not work hard, I made you fail the test, I made you not study hard." The mature female professor was really angry. She once encountered someone who got 17 points in English, and the key point was her husband. In the study, Xiao was enjoying a certain part of their teacher play, but Qin Taihong and Zhang Qinhui suddenly came without informing him. "Do you think Xiao Xu and Shuang are getting along well?" Qin Taihong pressed the combination lock, and Zhang Qinhui, who was standing next to him, asked in a low voice. "I think so." As soon as he finished speaking, the door was unlocked. As soon as the couple walked into their house, they heard the son-in-law howling like a ghost. Oops. Wrong. Chapter 26. Dad, I feel so miserable. Asking for monthly tickets. The son-in-law's howling cries and various pleas for mercy, saying wrong, made the old couple feel ashamed. Earlier, the mother-in-law asked whether her daughter and Xiao Xu could get along harmoniously, but reality slapped her in the face so quickly, it was obvious that her daughter was domestic violence against her husband. It had only been a few days since they got the marriage certificate, and something like this happened. Will she pick up a kitchen knife in a month? At this time, Qin Taihong and Zhang Qinhui looked at each other and saw the shame on each other's faces. They knew that their daughter had a bad temper, but they didn't expect that her temper was so bad. No matter what Xiao Xu did wrong, it was wrong for her to hit others. Look at this. You've spoiled me like this since I was a kid. Zhang Qinhui gritted her teeth and said, "How dare you hit someone? Let's not talk about this now, let's go check out the situation. It looks like someone is going to die." Qin Taihong muttered anxiously. Then the couple followed the sound and walked towards their daughter's study. The door was ajar, they could see the scene inside through the crack. Qin Taihong and Zhang Qinhui did not go in, but they could see the situation inside through the crack. At this time, the daughter was holding a steel ruler and hitting her son-in-law's palm hard. She used all her strength to hit him every time, which hurt her son-in-law so much, it was so miserable. The couple's faces were filled with confusion, with question marks between their brows. This seemed a little different from the scene they imagined of their daughter beating up her son-in-law. It didn't feel like domestic violence. It felt more like the kind of corporal punishment a teacher gives to a student. "I asked you in the car whether you were well prepared. How did you answer me?" Qin Rushuan was so disappointed with her husband who only scored 17 points in English that she punished him without mercy and beat him to death with every blow. In fact, it's not her fault that she was so angry. After all, this score has exceeded Qin Rushuang's understanding of a fool. The key point is that Xiao Yu is not a fool, he is a real genius. The only explanation is, her husband didn't focus on studying at all. No. I did study hard in the afternoon. Who knew it was so difficult? Things have developed to this point. I must not say that I can get full marks, otherwise the mature female professor will be even more furious. Crucially, it will also affect the future teacher play segment. This is the top priority. After all, in front of their teacher play, this little grievance is nothing. Disaster. What's so difficult about it? It's been this difficult for so many years. Don't lie with your eyes open, Qin Rushuan said fiercely with a dark face, holding the steel ruler. Sometimes look for your own reasons. Did you read the book well in the afternoon? Did you review seriously? You knew you had an English test in the evening, but you. As soon as the voice fell. After taking a look at the test paper with a score of 17, she became angry again and hit her husband's palm hard with the ruler in her hand. In fact, Qin Rushuang has a very stable temper and will not explode for no reason. Even if she explodes, she will just slam the door. But today she really couldn't bear it anymore. This is not a question of being stupid or not, but a question of learning attitude. She didn't believe that such a smart little husband could only get such a low score. Gently. It hurts. Their teacher play session in the study room has reached a fever pitch, and the couple hiding outside are a little speechless for a moment. Qin Tai Hong and Zhang Qinhui left the place carefully and came to the corridor outside the house. At this time, Zhang Qinhui complained, "Has our daughter's brain been kicked by a donkey? It's okay for her to show off at school, but she also shows off to her husband when she comes home. What on earth does she want to do? Don't worry. Let's analyze it first." Qin Tai Hong frowned and said thoughtfully, Shuang should have wanted Xiao Xu to study hard and get him a professional title or something so that he could get a job. As a result, Xiao Xu failed to meet Shuang's expectations and was punished by Shuang. I feel that this is the situation. Even so. You can't hit me so hard. Listen to Xiao Xu's heart-wrenching cry for mercy. What would my father-in-law and mother-in-law think if they saw it? Zhang Qinhui was so angry that her face turned red. She gritted her teeth and said, "This matter today cannot be let go. It must be dealt with seriously." After that, he pushed the door open suddenly and went to look for his daughter in a rage. Bang! I opened the study door forcefully. My mother-in-law stood at the door with a dark face and scolded, Shuang. What are you doing? For a time, the young couple who were playing teacher play in the study were startled. At this time, Qin Rushuang held up a steel ruler and looked back at her biological mother with a look of surprise between her brows. Mom. Don't worry about this matter, you and Dad. Even when facing her own mother, Qin Rushuang did not back down at all and spoke calmly. Hearing her daughter's words, the mother-in-law exploded on the spot, rushed in and took away their murder weapon, and said angrily, "Don't care? Just let you bully Xiao Xu." The father-in-law Qin Tai Hong also came in. Compared to his daughter-in-law's rage, he was relatively rational and would not easily take sides before thoroughly investigating the truth. You say. What on earth is going on? Qin Rushuan pursed her lips and said to Xiao Yu. Dad, Mom, this is the situation. Xiao Yu replied, Rushuan wanted me to take the postgraduate entrance examination and then tested me. I failed the English test and only scored 17 points. She got angry. Of course, I can understand. Which wife doesn't want her husband to be a child of destiny? So I don't think she bullied me. She just felt sorry for me. After hearing his son-in-law's explanation, even Qin Tai Hong, who did not take sides, was speechless, not to mention that his mother-in-law's face was twisted with anger. Postgraduate entrance examination. Why don't you let Xiao Xu go to heaven? Zhang Qinhui winked at her husband, signaling him to comfort his son-in-law. Xiao Xu. Come out with Dad for a moment, let's go to the door and smoke a cigarette together. After his father-in-law spoke, Xiao Yu naturally stood up and followed him to the door to smoke. Only Qin Rushuang and Zhang Qinhui, mother and daughter, were left in the study. In the study, the mother-in-law is educating her daughter, and outside the house, the father-in-law is bribing his son-in-law. Xiao Xu. I'm sorry for wronging you, Qin Taihong said with shame on his face. Dad, it's okay. And I feel that. Before Xiao Yu could finish his words, Qin Taihong patted him on the shoulder and said earnestly, don't defend Xuan. Your mother-in-law and I are both reasonable. She was indeed wrong in this matter. After their words fell, she silently took off the $1 million Vatran Constantine watch from her wrist and put it on her son-in-law herself. Dad. No way. Xiao Yu wanted to take it off and return it to him, but was pushed back by his father-in-law. Compared to your grievances, this is nothing, Qin Taihong said sincerely. What to do? I can only give my father-in-law some emotional value, but I need to let my mature wife down a little. If that doesn't work, I will hand the watch over to the National Treasury. Thinking of this, Xiao Yu suddenly grabbed his father-in-law's hand and said with a worried look on his face, Dad, I feel so miserable. As a result, Qin Taihong's heart shuddered. It's over. You have to put one more piece in. Chapter 27. Come in and learn English with me. Ask for monthly ticket. Actually, Xiao Yu didn't want to cheat his father-in-law of the watch. He just wanted to give him some emotional value. After all, he spent so much money, and there was no feedback at all. It was really unreasonable, so he did this. Who would have thought that his father-in-law was overthinking? Dad. Rushuang forced me to study, forced me to take the postgraduate entrance examination, and even used very difficult examination papers to test me. Xiao Yu tightly grasped his hand, his brows full of sadness, complained, she knew my ability very well, but she deliberately set a score line that made me despair. Do you know? The examination paper is worth 100 points. She wanted me to score above 95 points, and she would punish me if I got 1 point less. Listening to his son-in-law's complaints, every word pierced Qin Taihong's heart. He originally wanted to get rid of him with a cheap Omega watch, but his daughter's pressure on him turned out to be so severe that he felt that he couldn't settle the matter without a Patek Philippe. Well, I know Rushuang has good intentions. I know she is doing this for my own good. She hopes that I can become a useful person. Xiao Yu was a little into the role. He sighed deeply and said with emotion, she is a good wife and will be a good mother in the future. It's me who has no future. Qin Taihong immediately became alert, holding his son-in-law's hands with both hands, and said earnestly, Xiao Xu, you can't give up. No. Dad, you misunderstood. I just feel that I, myself. Xiao Yu pursed his lips and said bitterly, I am useless. It works. Who said it's useless? Qin Taihong said seriously, Xiao Xu, don't easily deny your own value. Besides, your mother-in-law and I both think that you have unlimited potential. I believe Xuan thinks so too, otherwise she wouldn't be so attentive to you. Of course, she may be eager for success and put too much pressure on you. After that, he felt around for a while and pulled out a Cullinan key from his pocket. At this time, Xiao Yu's eyes were shining, but his father-in-law put the car keys back into his pocket and pretended nothing had happened. You just lack confidence a little bit now. Well, I'll give you another watch in a couple of days, a Patek Philippe. Qin Taihong said seriously, there's also a Bentley in the garage, it belongs to your mother-in-law. You can just take it and drive it, she doesn't drive it much anyway. This. If I failed to help Rushuang give birth to 2 children, I would feel unworthy of the love of my father-in-law and mother-in-law. His original intention was to give his father-in-law some emotional value, but he never expected that he would give more. At this time, Xiao Yu was in a dilemma. He felt like a scammer who used eggs to cheat old men and women out of their pensions at the gate of the community. No. Dad. I really can't give it anymore. Xiao Yu hastily refused, and said helplessly, if you give like this. If Rushuang doesn't give birth to 2 children next year, I will be ashamed. In an instant, my father-in-law's eyes also lit up. Xiao Xu. Your mother-in-law and I only have one daughter, Xuan. She will belong to you too in the future. The father-in-law patted his son-in-law on the shoulder and said seriously, please pay attention to the child's matter, your mother-in-law and I are a little anxious. Can see. In fact, I am more anxious than both of you. But she won't let me sleep in the master bedroom, even though she agreed to have a baby if I got my PhD degree. The problem is that I can't pry open the door to the master bedroom yet. By the way, do you and Xuan sleep in the same room, or? the father-in-law asked cautiously. Xu Yu was stunned for a moment, and replied awkwardly, separate rooms. After all, we just got the marriage certificate, and the emotional foundation has not been established yet. But Dad, I will try my best, you and Mom can rest assured about this. My father-in-law nodded and didn't say much. This was also expected. After comforting their son-in-law, the two went back, and then they heard in the study, the mother-in-law was still roaring, and from time to time there were the sounds of resistance from the mature female professor. Dad, will there be a fight in there? Xu Yu shrank his neck and asked cautiously. Won't. But don't go in, it's easy to hurt you by mistake. Qin Tai Hung replied calmly. Xu Yu stared blankly at his father-in-law beside him. He did not see the so-called calmness and composure on his face, but only the endless sadness and helplessness. If you think about it carefully, it is really difficult to be a human being when being caught between two strong women. Just then, the quarrel finally stopped. Mother-in-law Zhang Qinhui walked out angrily, followed closely by the mature female professor, with a hint of annoyance between her brows. Mom, don't be angry. You'll have a grandson to hold in your arms in the future. How can you hold him if your body is weak? Xu Yu brought a glass of water and advised softly. Zhang Qinhui, who was furious at first, calmed down a little after seeing her son-in-law. She took the cup of water handed to her, looked at Xu Yu with thick eyebrows and big eyes, and said bitterly, Xiao Xu, I'm sorry for making you suffer. No. Actually, this is also Rushuang's concern for me, but everyone's way of caring is different. Xu Yu explained. Xiao Xu, you don't have to speak for her. Qin Tai Hung suddenly spoke up and said to Qin Rushuang, Xuan, Xiao Xu has told me everything. Dad wants to have a good talk with you. Then, she told everything she knew, and then her mother-in-law Zhang Qinhui also joined the team to attack her daughter. Xu Yu stood there not daring to move, for fear of attracting trouble, but was still spotted by the mature female professor. When she was jointly attacked by her parents, she glanced coldly at her young husband. But Xu Yu shook the Vatran Constantine watch on his hand, and his cold eyes softened slightly. It seems that this watch will have to be handed over to the National Treasury. Dad, Mom, walk slowly, be careful on the road. Xu Yu sent his father-in-law and mother-in-law downstairs. At this time, the old couple were already sitting in the car. As for why Qin Rushuang didn't come down, she was still angry with her parents. Xiao Xu, pay attention to the children's affairs. Yeah, I will definitely try my best to make you two grandpa and grandma as soon as possible. After seeing the old couple off, Xu Yu took the elevator back. As soon as he opened the door, he saw the mature female professor sitting on the sofa, drinking water quietly by herself. There was no specific expression on her face, but the more this happened, the more uneasy he felt. This is the watch your father gave me. I'll hand it over. The first thing Xu Yu did when he got home was to hand the watch over to the National Treasury. Wear it. Qin Rushuang replied calmly, then put down the cup in her hand, raised her head and stared at him, suddenly stood up, walked towards the study, and said as she walked, Come in and learn English with me. Chapter 28 Can I wear stockings to teach English? I have finally waited for this day. Foreign languages are good, and I must learn them. Xu Yu excitedly followed his mature wife into the study, sat obediently in front of her desk, waiting to learn English. Have you passed the CET4? I won't talk about the basics, I only teach you professional stuff. Qin Rushuang sat next to Xu Yu, holding the prepared English textbook in her hand, and said calmly, As for vocabulary, memorize it while you're working. I will mainly help you improve your reading comprehension and composition skills. Teacher Qin, I have a question. Xu Yu nodded repeatedly and said seriously, Can you get closer? Qin Rushuang frowned, but in order to improve her young husband's English performance, she could only lift her round buttocks and slowly move the chair to his side, but not to the point where their bodies were touching. Closer. Ouch. Qin Rushuang picked up the thick English textbook, slapped it hard on his arm, and said with a dark face, Be serious. Xu Yu smiled awkwardly, put away his mischievousness and frivolity, and said seriously, Teacher Qin, you can start now. However, the mature female professor just sat there, staring at him intently. What's wrong? Isn't it that I'm learning English with you? Xiao Xu was a little confused and asked curiously, is there any preparation work that you haven't done yet? Take notes. Qin Rushuang reminded angrily. Oh. Take notes. As the saying goes, a good memory is not as good as a bad pen. You really need to take notes. Xiao Xu picked up the black pen, searched on the table, and asked carefully, Rushuang? Do you have a new notebook? Qin Rushuang opened the drawer expressionlessly, took out a brand new notebook, patted her husband on the head, and said, call the teacher. Okay, teacher Qin. After getting the notebook, Xiao Xu started to concentrate, and Qin Rushuang also began to fulfill her duties as her husband's private English tutor. The play process between students and teachers is to enjoy each other's fun in the role and enhance the emotional connection with each other. It is obvious that Xiao Xu and Qin Rushuang have achieved this. The mature female professor has unknowingly been getting close to her student husband who is 9 years younger than her. Listening to her detailed explanation, smelling the faint fragrance on her body, from questioning Dean Chen, to understanding Dean Chen, and finally becoming Dean Chen, Xiao Xu felt the benefits of foreign languages. This foreign language really needs to be learned. What should I choose for this question? Qin Rushuang pointed to a closed test question and asked expressionlessly, think carefully before answering. If you answer incorrectly, you will be slapped on the palm of your hand. So simple. Any fool would do that. But I can't answer correctly, the progress is too fast, which easily shortens the play process between students and teachers. A. Put your hand out. R. Qin Rushuang glared at her young husband fiercely and said angrily, I just told you 5 minutes ago, but you still gave me the choice A. What did I tell you at that time? Were you listening to me? Let me see my notes. Put your hand out. The mature female professor talked for half an hour, but her damn young husband didn't remember anything, which instantly irritated her. Snap. 2 more hard hits. Teacher, I want to go to the toilet. Snort. Qin Rushuang frowned and winked at the door. Xiao Xu quickly left the study and walked into the bathroom without taking off his pants. He rubbed his palms that had been ravaged by his wife and said to himself with a worried look on his face, no. If this goes on, she will beat me to death. This woman is really ruthless. After rubbing his hands to warm them up, Xiao Xu returned to the study and sat next to his mature wife, but he changed his strategy. What's this one? I just told you that. Qin Rushuang pointed at a question with her green jade finger and threatened coldly, if you dare to make a mistake, I will definitely not be polite. Pretending to think, analyzing, hesitant to speak, he answered cautiously, C. Are you asking me what to choose? Qin Rushuang glared at him and asked angrily, are you sure it's C? So similar. If I didn't know English, I would have been fooled by her. Some teachers like to do this. Even if the students have chosen the right answer, they will deliberately threaten them and try to get them to change their answers. Xiao Xu straightened his chest and answered seriously, it's C, that's right. Put your hand out. Qin Rushuang said lightly. R. Wrong? How is that possible? Xiao Xu's confidence in English is just like his confidence in mathematics and physics. After all, his articles are all published in English internationally. But when he confidently gave the answer, his wife told him that it was wrong. Etc. This isn't the C. Xiao Xu was a little anxious, and said seriously, if it's not C, what else can it be? Reason. Qin Rushuang said expressionlessly. Xiao Xu then began to explain why he chose C for this question, but being cunning, he did not go into detail. Instead, he gave his thoughts and arguments for the correct answer within a reasonable range. After listening to his description, the mature female professor, who had been stern at first, relaxed her expression a lot, but it only took less than a second. She immediately picked up a steel ruler beside her and said coldly, your foundation is obviously not bad, but I only got 17 points. Stretch out your hand. I must give you 2 slaps. Oh my god. If you answer correctly, you will be beaten. Believe it or not, I will call the Education Commission. Xiao Xu's scalp was numb. He felt that his wife was taking the opportunity of teaching English to take revenge on her husband. After all, she had the ruler in her hand, so whatever she said was reasonable. Oops. Oops. He got hit twice for no apparent reason, but these 2 hits weren't unfair. After all, he only got 17 points. The bloody score was there, and Xiao Xu couldn't wash it off no matter how hard he tried. Of course, he also regretted why he didn't get a few more points. All I can say is, last night, she was wearing a black OL professional uniform and a pair of gold-rimmed glasses. The intellectual and mature aura that came to her face was so intoxicating. Teacher Qin. I want to rest for 5 minutes. Xiao Xu said in a low voice. Qin Rushuan was also a little tired, so she agreed to her young husband's request. At this time, Xiao Xu sat obediently, fiddling with a pen in his hand, looking at the mature professor's wife who was close at hand, glancing at her profile, looking at her chest, and glancing at her pants. Rushuan. I suddenly had an idea. Qin Rushuan glanced at him from the corner of her eyes and said coldly, Say. You told me to say it, so I said it. Xiao Xu pursed his lips and said seriously, Rushuan, can you wear stockings to teach me English? I heard that this will greatly increase the learning effect. Chapter 29. Is the bed in your bedroom big? In fact, Qin Rushuan had long noticed that her husband was a little bit lustful, but she was not surprised. She even thought it was reasonable. After all, it was a man's nature. Besides, she was so beautiful, it would be a problem if he was not lustful. Xiao Xu? Do you think I have a good temper? Qin Rushuan asked expressionlessly while flipping through the postgraduate entrance examination English textbook. It's okay. Xiao Xu shrugged and said seriously, he's just a little bit rude. He likes to hit me with a ruler at any time. Qin Rushuan turned her head and stared at him, saying coldly, That's called beating? That's called punishment. Yeah. But I feel like you are, seemingly seeking revenge, but I have no evidence. Xiao Xu pursed his lips and replied helplessly, You always hit me with great force, swinging the ruler to the ground, totally disregarding my life or death. After all, he is your husband. If you beat me to death, wouldn't you become a widow? If you die from a slap on the palm, then you really deserve to die. Qin Rushuan snorted coldly and said angrily, If you get 17 points on the test, what's the point of living? So, Rushuan, put on your stockings quickly. By the way, do you have a short skirt? The kind that covers the hips, put them on together. Xiao Xu sat up straight and said seriously, As long as you wear like this in the future, I guarantee that you will get 100 points in every exam. During the conversation, the issue of stockings was brought up again, and an additional request was made, which was that the mature professor should wear a short hip skirt, etc. Put on your gold-rimmed glasses again. I like the way you look when you wear glasses. Xiao Xu said seriously. Qin Rushuan didn't say anything, just sat there quietly flipping through a book. However, from her husband's crazy imagination, she did know his strange hobby. But when she thought about it carefully, it seemed that every man could not escape the temptation of stockings, but her husband felt like he was terminally ill. Rushuan. Xiao Xu looked at her in silence, and hurriedly lowered his voice, and asked in a low voice, Why are you silent? Do you agree or refuse? According to international practice, silence means agreement, then you. I don't have stockings or a tight skirt. Qin Rushuan replied indifferently. I'll buy it. Order now. Xiao Xu naturally wouldn't agree to such an excuse. He immediately picked up his phone, opened the Daobao app, typed in, sexy black stockings, and instantly saw countless stockings. He then moved his phone in front of her and said softly, Teacher, which one do you like? I like this shiny one. I like to put it on your head. Qin Rushuan put down the English textbook in her hand, glared at her naughty husband fiercely, and said coldly, Focus on your studies and stop thinking about random things all day long. As soon as their voice fell, she snatched his phone away, locked the screen, and continued, It's almost time to rest, let's continue with the class. Xiao Xu looked depressed, but he did not give up this idea. He swore that one day, he would let his mature wife wear a white shirt, a black hip skirt, shiny black stockings, a pair of black high heels, and a pair of gold-rimmed glasses, and then teach him English in bed. An hour passed unconsciously, and it was almost 11 o'clock in the evening. After Qin Rushuan closed the textbook, she glanced at her listless husband beside her and said, Let's stop here tonight. Memorize the words well during the day. I will check them in the evening. Oh. Xiao Xu responded weakly. Xiao Xu? Did you tell my parents anything? Qin Rushuan asked calmly, Did you tell my parents about the child? Xiao Xu curled his lips and answered helplessly, They asked me when I would have a child, so I could only tell them. I would try my best. Of course, I didn't say when. I just said I would try my best. Speaking of which. Turning his head to look at his mature wife beside him, he muttered thoughtfully, think about it carefully, the so-called doctoral graduation is actually in your hands. As long as I pass the postgraduate line, and then use your name and publish an article as the first author, probably one article in the first zone, I should be able to get a doctorate ahead of time. I don't know what the situation is like here, but before I traveled through time, it was very difficult to publish articles in the field of theoretical physics. A master's degree candidate with one first-place PRL can apply for a doctorate at Peking University or Tsinghua University, and even two first-place PRLs can be evaluated as a professor. Of course, this is limited to theoretical physics. As for biochemistry, environmental materials science, it's hard to be a lecturer in a second-tier university even if you have for first-place PRLs. Qin Rushuang ignored him, stood up silently, and walked towards the door, saying as she walked, go to bed early, you can dream about anything. Looking at her leaving back, Xiao couldn't help but smile. What's going on? It feels more and more lovely. Qin Rushuang was taking a shower while Xiao was in the living room reading an English book, creating an image of a hard-working and diligent person. After a while, the mature female professor came out of the bedroom, wearing an extremely conservative nightgown, but one could still vaguely see the fullness under the nightgown, especially the pair of beautiful legs sticking out from the hem of the skirt. Although only a part of the calf was exposed, it was still so eye-catching. Seeing him sitting on the sofa and memorizing words, Qin Rushuan showed a satisfied look on her face and said leisurely, it's late. Go take a shower and go to bed. No. Now I have a desire to learn gushing out of my body. Xiao said seriously, that state of vigorous vitality and the advancement of all things is still before my eyes. Qin Rushuan rolled her eyes at her pretentious and naughty husband and said unhappily, if you had worked so hard when you were studying, you might have been a graduate student. Then I might not meet you. Xiao shrugged and answered softly. Qin Rushuan was stunned for a moment, but she didn't panic. She just looked at him sitting on the sofa and asked calmly, I forced you to study and slapped your palm. Are you sure you don't regret it? Do you regret it? Xiao raised his head and looked straight at her. A little bit. Qin Rushuang avoided his gaze and turned to walk towards the bedroom, but after walking a few steps, she suddenly stopped and said coldly, if I had met you earlier, I could have slapped your palm earlier. Oh. It feels like there's hope. Watching her walking farther and farther away, and finally disappearing from sight, he heard the sound of a door slamming. Xiao hurriedly stood up, and quickly walked to the door of the master bedroom and knocked gently. What's up? The door wasn't open, but the sound came from the room, she must be standing behind the door. Rushuan. Is the bed in your bedroom big? Are you afraid of sleeping alone? If you are afraid, tell me and I will protect you. Xiao said passionately. Snap. The door was locked. Chapter 30. A surprise inspection of my young husband. It's late at night and everyone is asleep, it's the best time to break into a house and pick the lock. However, given the current dangerous society, Xiao did not take this step. He was afraid that his wife would sue him in court for marital coercion. At this time, Xiao was staying in his bedroom, using his tablet computer to read the latest frontier physics information. Mainly, he wanted to see if there was any difference in this world between the field he once studied. After searching for a long time, he found that there seemed to be no difference between the two. In that case, it's totally possible to copy my paper. Xiao thought of the research content for which he was nominated for the Nobel Prize, and wanted to reproduce it in this world. The key is that it does not require any experiments, all he needs is a pen and 3 pieces of paper to replicate this miracle. Before traveling through time, Xiao was studying quantum field theory and the quantization of quantum field theory, and was nominated for the Nobel Prize because he solved the mathematical connection between topological field theory and quantum gravity. Of course, Xiao did not completely solve it, but only solved a very small problem in it, and even this problem has not been solved yet. Separation of topology and dynamics. Topological field theory itself lacks local degrees of freedom, while gravity must include dynamic degrees of freedom. Xiao proposed a feasible solution that allows the breaking of topology, and he only used 3 pages of paper to describe this aspect. Without saying anything, Xiao began his reproduction process. Because he had invested a lot of energy in this area, even after some time, he still reproduced it accurately, even without any mistakes in punctuation, and the content was pure English. The next step is to input it into the computer and then upload it to R14. Just as he was busy editing his paper, his cell phone on the table suddenly vibrated. He picked it up and took a look. Unexpectedly, it was a WeChat message from his mature wife. Qin Rushuan, are you asleep? Xu Yu, not yet, what's wrong? Qin Rushuan, why don't you sleep? Xu Yu, then why aren't you sleeping yet? Qin Rushuan, I'm asking you. Xu Yu, I don't want to answer you. If it were before, Xu Yu would definitely have a good spiritual encounter with her, but now he is a bit busy editing his thesis and doesn't want to pay attention to her for the time being. In the master bedroom, Qin Rushuan lay in bed, holding her mobile phone in her hand. The light from the screen illuminated her entire face. She frowned slightly, and there was a little dissatisfaction in her eyes, as well as a little imperceptible loss and loneliness. I thought my marriage with him would be full of false respect, but unexpectedly, it was just the opposite. His naughty and mean character made my life, which should have been boring, an interesting experience. Even though he would make me angry and tease me on purpose, but, when I'm with him, I don't have as many worries as I do during the day. Is this love? Maybe it's just a compromise in life and marriage. Since she couldn't sleep and her husband ignored her, Qin Rushuan called her best friend Jiang Ru. Hello. What's up? Jiang Ru on the phone was a little sleepy and asked incoherently. I can't sleep, I want to chat with you. It was clearly asking for help from others, but to Qin Rushuan, it seemed justified. Are you worried? Research problems. Jiang Ru muttered. Qin Rushuan wrapped herself tightly in the quilt and asked leisurely, Sister Jiang, do you like younger men? I mean, men who are much younger than you. Fresh meat. Who wouldn't he like it? But at my age, I guess I can only find bacon. Jiang Ru replied bitterly. After their words fell, Jiang Ru suddenly thought of something and asked cautiously, Xuan. You have a target. Is the target much younger than you? Goodbye. Beep, beep, beep. Qin Rushuan died decisively, leaving no chance for Jiang Ru. The next morning, Qin Rushuan knocked on someone's room and called him to get up, and then Xu Yu came out of the room in a daze. Hurry up. Otherwise we'll be late. Just glancing at him, the MILF professor went about her business. After Xu Yu simply washed up, he went to work with his wife. The two didn't say anything along their way until they sent him to the station. Qin Rushuan began to remind him to memorize more words during the day. Well, I'm so tired. Xu Yu worked until 3 o'clock last night, but he finally copied the article and uploaded it to R14. The account name is XY2025, with Xu Yu's first letter in capital letters and the time. However, the article is currently locked. Xu Yu does not want to make it public for the time being. It is not the time to make it public yet. Slowly returning to the library, he ran into Zhang Qian. Seeing Xu Yu's exhausted appearance, Zhang Qian felt both emotional and helpless, and hurriedly dragged him to a corner. Xiao Xu. Young people should learn moderation. Zhang Qian said earnestly, don't think that you can bully Director Qin just because you are a man and a bit strong, and Director Qin is a woman. In fact, in bed, she is the home advantage, the key is her age. Hey. Sister Zhang, you are thinking the wrong way. Xu Yu explained with a depressed look, my haggardness has nothing to do with her, I just what? Don't just be. Zhang Qian rolled her eyes, took out a can of medicine from her pocket, and said seriously, your brother-in-law has been taking this recently. I've tried it. The effect is quite good. It's pure Chinese medicine with no side effects. You should give it a try. After that, she forced herself into Xu Yu's arms, then looked at him meaningfully. It's good to want to improve. But progress also requires skills and methods. Zhang Qian said seriously, after eating. I'll ask your brother-in-law to buy some. Looking at Zhang Qian's departing back and then glancing at the mysterious medicinal herbs in his arms, Xu Yu felt like his whole body was about to break apart. But then again, this was indeed an issue that needed to be taken seriously. He had only heard of cows being worked to death, but never heard of land being damaged by plowing. At the same time, Qin Rushuan stayed in her office, dealing with some trivial matters in the department. She was relatively free today and only needed to attend a meeting in the afternoon. In less than an hour, everything was resolved. Looking at the time, the The mature female professor stood up silently and prepared to go to the library for a surprise inspection, which is the legendary 4 no's and 2 straights. Don't send him any notifications, don't say hello to him, don't listen to his sweet words, don't need anyone to accompany you, go straight to the target, straight to the scene. Qin Rushuan wanted to see whether her husband studied hard during the day. Xiao Xu. It's time to study. Oh. Immediately. Shu Yu, OZZZ.